Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Director of Universitas Brawijaya, Your Excellency, Professor Widodo MSI, PhD, MedSc. Excellencies, the Dean Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Brawijaya, and also as the speaker of today's conference, Abdul Ghaffar SE MSI DBA AK, the President of AIBPM, Lim Kaisin PhD. The speakers of today's event, Professor J. Raja Sekera, Mr. Tarindo Amisekere, MBA, MPM, CIMA, Dr. Ranjit PV, and Dr. Liu Tekyu. 12 co-hosts of BICAB 2022, Sekolah Tinggi Ilmu Ekonomi Yayasan Keluarga Pahlawan Negara Yogyakarta, Faculty of Economics and Business Universitas Tadulako, Faculty of Economics and Business Universitas Mula Warman, Faculty of Economics and Business Universitas Kristen Satya Wacana Salatiga, Faculty of Economics and Social Universitas Bakri, Faculty of Economics and Business Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Yogyakarta, Faculty of Business and Economics Universitas Surabaya, Faculty of Economics and Business Universitas Pamulang, Faculty of Economics and Business Universitas Negeri Malang, Sekolah Tinggi Ilmu Ekonomi Malang Kucecuara, Faculty of Economy Universitas Madura, Faculty of Economy Universitas Kristen Petra, as well as our sponsors, Adiputro and PT Anugerah Citra Abadi. Excellencies, participants, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to Brawijaya International Conference in Accounting and Business, BICAB 2022, held by Department of Accounting, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Brawijaya, Malang. I am Aulia Hadiani. I feel honored to be the host for today's event. It is such a perfect opportunity for us to interact and network you all, peers and colleagues across countries. I do appreciate you for taking your busy schedule to join us today, Thursday, August 25th, 2022. As we all may know that we've been struggling from the outbreak, nevertheless, we keep going through all difficulties and challenges to survive and even to grow. On this occasion, we'll have outstanding discussions from our prominent speakers on improving business performance in the post-crisis through accounting and information system for a more valuable tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, before we officially begin our international conference, we will reverse and listen to our national anthem, Indonesia Raya. Okay, without further ado, I'd like to invite the respected Rector of Universitas Brawijaya, Professor Widodo MSI, PhD, MedSc, to deliver the opening remark.
Thank you, MC, for the time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Dean of Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Brawijaya, the Honorable Speakers, Dr. Lee Tekyu, Associate Professor from Curtin University, Malaysia, Professor J. Raja Sekera from Tokyo International University, Japan, and also Dr. Tarindu, Senior Lecturer at BICAB and Wisdom Sima, Sri Lanka, and Dr. Ranjit from Chris University, India. First, let us express our gratitude to the merciful God who has created us with the blessing and grace that we could gather here today to attend this international conference. Ladies and gentlemen, respectable keynote speaker, presenters, and committee, I am pleased to welcome you to the Brawijaya International Conference in Accounting and Business 2022. That organized by Department of Accounting, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Brawijaya. The conference is dedicated to enhancing the contribution of the accounting and business for better governance, society, and environments. Therefore, this conference is very important to inspire from the fact that accounting used in the business currently has become a prominent governance instrument to accelerate decision-making process, which may affect sustainability of the society as well as the environments. Also, we are convinced that the role of science, technology, and culture approach to the society is very important in shaping the earth for our future generations. Therefore, with the galaxy of reputed speakers, this meeting also may provide opportunities for developing collaboration among the participants of this conference. It is expected that the conference will be beneficial and fruitful dissemination forum for accounting and business academic and practitioners who have magnificent concern for the next generations. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, furthermore, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to speakers, to co-host institutions who join us to share their knowledge and expertise. And also I would like to give most profound appreciation to the deans and head of Department of Accounting, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Brawijaya, also committee, MC, moderators, presenters, and all of the conference participants from across the country. So finally, in anticipation of a fruitful and meaningful conference, I am as a rector of Universitas Brawijaya officially open the Brawijaya International Conference in Accounting and Business 2022. We wish you most fruitful day and enjoyable conference. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Professor Widodo, for the speech and to make this conference possible to happen. Well, before we start seminar sessions, I'd like to invite all panelists and participants to turn on the camera. We'll take group pictures and the committee will be helping to capture it in a moment.
Okay, thank you everyone. And thank you, Miss Aulia, for the chance. I will take pictures starting from the gallery 1. Everyone, please open your camera viewer 1, and then I will take photos now. Let me count. 3, 2, 1. And then moving on to the next gallery. 3, 2, 1. Moving on to the third gallery. Do not forget to open your camera. 3, 2, 1. Moving on. Please open your camera. Thank you. I will take pictures now. 3, 2, 1. Moving on to the fifth gallery. 3, 2, 1. And then the last gallery. 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much. I will give back to the MC to continue the event. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you everybody. And following, it's our honor to invite the Dean, Faculty of Economics and Business, Brawijaya University, Abdul Gofar SE, MSI DBA AK, to deliver the opening remark.
Okay, thank you very much for the MC, and thank you. I would like to gratitude and thank for Pak Rector for the opening remarks. I think you may leave Pak Rector because I know you are very busy today. So just you can meet. Thanks. Thank you very much, Pak Rector. So, your honorable speakers and the participant of BICAB Brawijaya International Conference on Accounting and Finance. My presentation will be very short, I think, because I have to catch up the flight today. So I'm so sorry. I apologize for that. Can I share my PPT? Bu Aulia, yeah? Share screen.
Yeah, sure.
So I pinpoint some of important technology information technology transformations as a growth enabler under uncertainty. So we know that the world has been changing so much. For example, that the economy and revenue growth is slowing down starting 2008. We agree that the surest on the important signs of thriving company is the robust and consistent revenue growth. But maybe for the last 15 years, it has been very difficult to find any companies who have consistent growth revenue. The biggest company actually started, the biggest company in the world actually experiencing only a half of growth rate compared to what they did before 2008. So we can see that the biggest company in the world is only experiencing at a half rate of the growth compared to before 2008 and after 2008. So the world has been experiencing a economic slowdown, and revenue growth is also slowdowns. The other challenges to creating a value actually is not only about slowing global economy. There are two other challenges in creating a value that we have to face today. The second is rising inflations. The third is geopolitical uncertainty, and the fourth is climate change. We know that after Russia attacking Ukraine, everything, the price of every commodity is going up. So then we are now facing unprecedented situations now, because the inflation goes up so much, and then there are geopolitical uncertainty is also very unpredictable. So those four factors that factors that we have to face in creating a value after the pandemic and after the Ukraine war. So there are only two words I mentioned here that maybe represent the situation, current situation we face. Those are volatility and unpredictability. So here is the capital market US volatility index before and after the COVID-19 pandemic. So we can see here that the volatility index goes up and very volatile after the COVID-19 and after Ukraine war. Before the COVID-19, the index is little bit slow, I think, is below the average, But after the COVID-19, it goes up much more than the average before the COVID pandemic. So there are 10 potential risks to grow in the global economy now. So there are 10 factors that may hinder us to have a revenue growth. The first is geopolitical instability, inflation, volatile energy prices, supply chain disruption, rising interest rates, labor shortages, increased economic volatility. COVID-19 actually is still, this is from the McKinsey survey, is still perceived as the potential risk that may be hinder us to grow. Yeah. The other is is domestic political conflict and changes in trade policy. Those are the factor, the potential risk to have revenue growth in today business and economic current situations. So from the McKinsey also we can learn there are 6 dimensions of resilient growth. If I mentioned that the revenue growth is the most important enabler to creating value, right? So we have challenges to create a value or to create a resilient growth, but we have 6 dimensions that from the McKinsey survey, 6 dimensions of resilience growth. First is financial dimension, operational dimension, organization dimension, digital and technology dimension, business model innovation capabilities dimension, brand, reputation, and ESG, environment, social, and governance dimensions. Those are the 6 that maybe enable us to grow. I would like to emphasize one of them actually, which is digital and technology dimensions. But McKinsey also report very interesting about the pricing. This is financial dimensions, yeah. So 20% of the company who are survive in current situation is those who make the pricing management as a business model, and they are very agile to change this business model. So they call very aggressive pricing management. Every quarter they assess their pricing. This is very surprising for me, because the pricing actually now before the pandemic and before the Ukraine war, it's been very stable, but now they are very aggressive in determining prices because the inflations. So I would like to emphasize on digital and technology dimension here, because it's one of the most critical and most important factors that enable us to have resilient growth. So from the McKinsey also, we can see that technology investment are creating significant business value. More than two-thirds of the respondents, the respondent are 700 companies in the world. They mentioned that more than 70% of them mentioned that technology transformation has enabled them to make 4 factors, 4 situations, 4 improvement. First is they improve employee experiences. They experience also reduce costs. They also experience increased revenue from existing stream, and they also realize of new revenue streams. We see here that more than 79% the company who make technology transformation improve their employee experience, and 68% of the company who has implemented technology transformation actually increase revenue from existing streams. This is very important. So we can conclude that the technology transformation still, today, still enable firm to create value. So we can see also here from the McKinsey survey also, the strategy or what transformation actually they did to make 4 factors that happen. We can see here that scaling data analytics is very crucial, enable to realize new revenue stream and to increase revenue from existing streams. So if the company want to realize new revenue stream or to increase revenue from existing stream, they do scaling data analytics. Okay. But one transformation actually is also very crucial, which is transforming talent strategy. Because this transformation, transforming talent strategy, make them to have 4 improvement. We can see here that Transforming talent strategy has made them to realize new revenue stream, right? Transforming talent strategy make them to increase revenue from existing stream. Transforming talent strategy also make them to reduce costs, and transforming talent strategy make them improve employee experiences. Another data from the McKinsey also, what transformation of the company will do over 2 years, 2 next years. They said, first is digitizing and user experiences. The second, they still want to scaling data analytics. The third, they want to enhancing an IT architecture. And the last and the least is transforming vendor management. Very important also here that the remark we can see for the highlights here, transforming vendor management is only actually, this is one, transforming vendor management and sourcing strategy could reduce costs and improve employer experiences. But they cannot increase revenue from existing stream by transforming vendor management and sourcing strategy. So this one, all this survey teach us that for accountants, technology will not replace our job, but technology will support us in creating the value. I think this is good remark. I think the technology will support us in doing our business, not replacing us as accountant or as any business business players. So because I'm an accountant, I want to see how accountants actually face the technology transformations. Yes, it is that the sum of our job will be eliminated or replaced by the machine. For example, account payable and receivable processing. Now there is already artificial intelligence power invoice management system available. They can make invoice processing much easier and more streamlined due to the digital workflow that the company implement. For supplier onboarding, for example, machine can actually replace us to vet new supplier by checking their credit score, right? And also actually reduce the human error to checking any data. This is that some of our job actually now already replaced by the machine. Some other are very vulnerable to be replaced by the machine. For example, transactional accounting process. Primary example are customer order processing, invoicing, credit, accounts receivable, payment collection, vendor purchase order processing, and account payable, payroll processing, and travel expense processing. All are very vulnerable to be replaced by the machines. This is our challenge for accountants actually, but what we have to do. Hanum mentioned 3 things that we have to do now. First, increasing skill with education and training. Yeah. I read her remark, very important remark here. As output of automation increases, accountant can convert their fear risk into opportunities. So we have to change our fear risk into opportunities. We can do this by acquiring new skill and capability, such as with planning, strategizing, and analysis, which contribute higher value to organization than simply reporting data. This can be accomplished via education and training. This is very important remark, I think. So in order to not be replaced by the machines, we have to increase our skill with education and training. In what? In augmented digital automation and new business model from digital disruptions. So our skill and knowledge actually in augmenting digital automation and new business model from digital disruption are very important in order to not be replaced by the machines. For example, here, I mentioned some of the examples, yeah, how machine can support the accountants, not replace the accountants. For example, data analytics. Yeah, accountant could use data analytics in many ways. For example, uncovering valuable insights within their financials, or improving the efficiency of processes within the entity by discovering the potentials. And the third is managing risk with preferable approach. Another example is actually how the internal and external auditors use information technology to transform their tasks. Auditors might alter their approach in a sample-based model into constant monitoring, where much larger data sets are analyzed and verified. And what the result actually? We get the result that less margin of error, resulting and in more precise recommendations. So data analytics actually make us to provide more precise recommendations, also make us to have less margin of errors. This is actually some of the examples that we can do to use technology transformation in creating value, especially for the accountants. So this is my closing remarks because I have to go. This is the remark from Benjamin Disraeli. He said, he is the Prime Minister of England in 19th century. It could be 200 years ago. They said that the most successful man in life is the man who has the best information. And who those are have best information, it could be the accountants. So the accountants could be the most successful man in life. I think that's all. Thank you very much. And I apologize to make it very shorter. Good morning and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Gofar, for presenting the topic for today's conference. So, Dr. Gofar should be presenting the topic after this moment. However, Dr. Gofar did it in advance due to his schedule. So, Dr. Gofar, may I ask you one thing for your Q&A sessions? You will do it right now, like one questions, or you will do it at the end of the seminar together with other speakers?
I think I have to go to the to catch up the airplane. So I'm so sorry for that. Yeah, because my plane is 10:30. I have to go to the airport.
Okay, so
now.
Will you be joining us at the end of the seminar session for Q&A?
Yeah, I will online through my handphones, and then maybe the end of the sessions. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Gofar, and have safe flight. Yep. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to remind all presenters to format their Zoom name based on their presentation rooms. For example, if I'm assigned in room 4, I'll need to rename my Zoom to R4 Aulia Herdiani and so forth. And for section chairs, add SC in the beginning followed by R with your room's number and then your full name. And ladies and gentlemen, we'd also like to invite you to share today's photo to your Instagram and give the hashtag 2022 BICAB, BICAB, info for academia. And the best Instagram post will get free entry to our next conference. We also invite you to follow our Instagram at info aibpm and our YouTube channel on aibpm talk series to obtain information of our upcoming events, publication opportunities, and the video of our conference. And the information also has been shared in the chat box as well as other informations and related to coming events and opportunities. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to introduce you the keynote speakers of today's conference. We have 5 excellent speakers with us right now. The first one has been presenting previously, Abdul Gofar SAMSI M Accounting DBA AKCA. as the Dean Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Brawijaya, Indonesia. And then following will be Mr. Tarindu Amesekere, MBA, MPM, CIMA, the Senior Lecturer in PIM, Sri Lanka. And then following Professor J. Rajasekera from Tokyo International University, Japan, Associate Professor Dr. Ranjit PV from Chris University, India, and then the last Associate Professor Dr. Lee Tek Yu from Curtin University, Malaysia. It's also my deep pleasure to introduce you the moderator for today's conference, Ms. Niluh Nyoman Sharina Devi. Good morning, Ms. Sharina.
Good morning. Thank you.
Okay, at first, let me briefly explain her bio. Niluh Nyoman Sharina Devi received her bachelor degree in accounting from Udayana University in 2013, finished professional accounting program from Udayana University as well in 2016, and earned her master degree in accounting from Udayana University 2 years after. Her thesis concerning the application of the UDCALC model to understand the behavior of technology usage in accounting information system users at university. She lives in Denpasar and works as lecturers at the Accounting Department, Faculty of Economics and Business, Mahasaraswati University, Denpasar. She has also worked as managing editor for Journal of Accounting Research, or JUARA, a scientific journal published by the Accounting Department, Faculty of Economics and Business, Mahasaraswati University. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Ms. Sharina Devi. Ms. Sharina, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Aulia Hadiani. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Niluh Nyoman Sharina Devi, and I will be the moderator for today's conference. So first thing first, I will announce the rules and the presentation time before I start to introduce our keynote speakers. So as Aulia has said that today we will have 5 keynote speakers. So first about conference rules. So all online participants will be muted during the presentation. And then there will be a Q&A session after all keynote speakers finish their presentations. And then the moderator has the authority to choose who will deliver the question or suggestion. So before I start, I would like to inform you that each keynote speaker will have 30 minutes to present their slides, and the question and answer session will be done after the presentation session. So our first speaker is Mr. Abdul Wafa, but he's already present his slide along with his welcome speech. So we will move on to our second speaker. So ladies and gentlemen, we will have Tarindu Amesekere as our second speaker. So I will introduce. Dr. Tarindu is a full-time senior faculty member in University of Sri Jayewardenepura, Sri Lanka. His expertise is in management finance, digital transformation, marketing, and branding. He is the national and international award-winning speaker and has over 15 years of lecturing and mentoring. He was also CEO and founder of 2 organizations and consult over 100 organizations in the past 9 years in HR and branding. He was also the host of a talk show on national TV and author of the book on impromptu public speaking. Dr. Tarindu also has trained and coached over 3,500 executives within 4 years across Asia in leadership, communication, and branding. So, Dr. Tarindu, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Shane, for that kind introduction. It's an absolute honor and pleasure to be presenting at this Brawijaya International Conference in Accounting and Business. Aibowan, Salam Alaikum. My name is Tarindu Amesekere, and I will be talking to you on the broader topic of adding value in today's businesses and the role that information systems and accounting has to play. On that broad topic, I'm going to pick one of the more modern developments that everybody is talking, but still we have a lot to do, and that is life in the metaverse. Metaverse is a topic, is a subject that many of you have heard, many of you would have seen. And Shireen, my presentation, I timed it and planned it for 15 to 20 minutes. Because I have to take a flight later today in the afternoon, I would appreciate that when my presentation is done, if anyone has a question to ask, I believe I will be able to answer it immediately. Shireen, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, very clear. Yeah.
So, improving business performance in the post-crisis world through accounting and information systems for a more valuable tomorrow. My focus will be on this term of more valuable. Now, when you're a business, what exactly do we mean about creating value? When you are an organization, this is a common question that a lot of people are asking, a lot of businesses are asking. How can we add more value? Value that customers will find important, value that customers will be willing to pay more and purchase. Value, ladies and gentlemen. So, according to the Harvard Business Review's article by James Anderson and James Narus, what they identified was that value in business markets is the worth in monetary terms of the technical, economic, service, and social benefits a customer or company receives in exchange for the price it pays for that market offering. So, what is it that the customers or the companies are basically getting for themselves for the price they pay? That is what we call value. It can be a product, it can be a product plus the experience, it can be a product plus the experience plus the brand image, whatever it may be. If customers are willing to pay for that, ladies and gentlemen, there is value in that. Now, how will a more valuable tomorrow look like? Let's look at from investors' perspective. For investors, a more valuable tomorrow will basically be where for the money they've invested, they see bigger returns coming in. For customers, more valuable tomorrow will probably be where for the price they pay, they are getting a better experience, a better offering, or when the customers are changing their habits, their behaviors, their socializing behaviors, where the businesses are also changing according to that, and then providing something of value to them. In terms of the wider society, they will be saying, okay, for us, a more valuable tomorrow from your business means that you are addressing our actual problems. You are addressing our concerns about climate change, concerns about environmental damage, concerns about not wanting to go to work anymore, but wanting to work from home continuously, but with a better experience, with a better socializing experience. These are how, for different segments, for different parties, a more valuable tomorrow will look like. For example, today we see that about 66 rivers, main rivers of the world are actually, we see this experience where they are drying up. So obviously, for the wider society, a more valuable tomorrow will be where companies are actually doing something about this problem, right? Okay. Now, what are the key themes in this post-crisis business world? Number one, sustainability and consciousness. People are saying, look, we want the businesses we buy from, the businesses we deal with, we want you to actually be more environmentally friendly and conscious towards our planet, right? That's what they are clearly saying. And also, digital life, that's where the whole metaverse and all these developments are coming in. If you look at the metaverse, it's a common term given to all these digital virtual worlds in which you can be joining in and you see actual characters, you're interacting with. You're not just texting or chatting with another WhatsApp name. No, you have an actual human being on the other side, a character with whom your character is interacting. Hybrid and flexible work. We have a great resignation going on as we speak. And the reason for this is simply that people are accustomed and used to working from home, and they don't want to give up on that comfort. Sometimes you do get very practical challenges as well, like in Australia, for example. Now, in Australia, the businesses are saying, look, come and, come back to work. But the employees are actually finding it difficult to find proper daycare facilities and all that. Right? And amidst all these developments, we also see a lot of de-globalization happening. We see a lot of countries trying to set up their own manufacturing, because the pandemic has clearly shown us that depending too much on the global supply chains can be risky and putting your country in jeopardy. Even in your own country, ladies and gentlemen, in Indonesia, I believe the leader of Indonesia has recognized that that the country is looking at, you guys are the largest electric vehicle manufacturer, that you don't want to just electric vehicle battery manufacturer, and you don't want to just keep on sending some of the nickel as exports, but rather to add more value within Indonesia and produce more complete batteries. So clearly, there's a lot of focus towards countries being able to move up the value chain as well. Now, my specific focus here will be towards the second option, which is the focus on digital life or metaverse, and how we need to recognize that there is value there. The book by Arthur Mintz, right, called The Post-Pandemic Business Playbook, recognize three main developments, right? The counter-COVID framework, they called it. Create emotional connections, demonstrate value, expand your digital footprint. Now, the metaverse is basically where all these three come into play, right? All these three will come into play. And one of the biggest problems with working from home or working using the Zoom and all those, people said, we don't have that ability to have those emotional interactions, emotional connections. We don't see that, right? So how does the metaverse become a solution for that? This is something we need to explore. So first of all, information systems can help us towards, because the broader focus is on information systems and accounting systems here today. Information systems can help us with, in many ways as we try to go for a digital life adoption. Virtual meetings, virtual homes, virtual clothing, virtual locations, right? Basically, information systems can provide us with all of this. However, the key question, ladies and gentlemen, will be, how well can we adopt our business to match the metaverse lifestyle? Metaverse, the virtual world where people are looking at living in, how can our business adopt to that? Is our business going to be in the business of providing virtual clothing? Or are we going to build virtual properties there? What will be our business model? So what exactly is life on the metaverse about? What is the metaverse? So we say, in the simplest of sense, it's a real world like digital world. It's a real world like digital world. You see the interactions, you see the people, you see it in 3D, right? Now, there are a couple of other interesting definitions to go with. I personally like the one by the Global Director of Technology Innovation at Nike, and I'll come back to Nike in a bit on this matter. But they say that he has mentioned that I think the metaverse is an all-encompassing space in which all digital experience sits, the observable digital universe made up of millions of digital galaxies. What a wonderful way to put it. People always think metaverse means Facebook. No, metaverse is a common term given to all these digital worlds which are out there, right? And if you look at some of the most common famous metaverse platforms, you have Decentraland, and now Facebook has come up with Meta. There's so much to observe. There is so many different, my friends, there is so many different digital worlds, digital universes, or the galaxies out there. So the common term we give to all those digital worlds put together, that's the metaverse. That's the metaverse. So if you look at Decentraland, you get one there, right? There's a list of very famous, metaverses which one needs to know, which one needs to kind of have an idea on, and it will definitely help you to understand which of these are actually growing, right? But there is it's not just about this, what Facebook has been talking about. Facebook was kind of one of the first companies to openly come and talk about it. But there are so many other metaverse platforms which are out there. Right now, more than Facebook's Meta, you get Decentraland and similar ones where even without that virtual headset, you can still see your characters, you can still interact. Some of the famous musicians have held concerts in these digital worlds of the metaverse. Now, metaverse is a topic we can speak for days, but since we are on the clock here, I'm going to get into something very specific connected with value, and that is NFTs, non-fungible tokens. A non-fungible token, ladies and gentlemen, is basically about what we recognize as it's a digital asset that represents a real-world object, such as what? Such as art, music, in-game items, and then also where we can be videos, and they are bought and sold online. You pay for them with cryptocurrency, and also they are programmed just like your Bitcoins and your Ethereums and so on. Now, I have an example here. The picture right on top is Sigiriya, one of the very famous landmarks of my country, my beautiful country, right? Which you are most welcome to visit, academics and students, everyone. Now, if you look at it, that's the famous landmark or the monument. However, right below it, you see another digital version of it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this digital version is what we call and what we recognize as a non-fungible token art. It's an NFT art. This was recently sold for a couple of thousands of dollars. And they said, if Sigiriya was built in the digital world with a digital twist, this is how it will look like. So someone comes up with an art, makes it available, anybody can buy it, own it. Later, let's say if Sigiriya becomes more popular for some reason, you can always sell that. So, and the beauty of it is that they will keep that ownership record intact. Normal digital art, anybody can claim it, anybody can, share it and download and try to sell, saying it's mine. NFT, there is a proper record clearly showing who owns what, right? Would you believe it that this kind of monkey art got sold for, hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. And even in this virtual world, why I'm coming to value. So this is value. NFT is value. If people are willing to buy, if people are willing to pay, that's value, ladies and gentlemen. Now, specifically speaking, life in the metaverse means you're not going to be running around on naked digital bodies. You need to clothe them. You need to give them clothes. That's exactly where NFTs come in. We are having today what we call as virtual clothing. virtual clothing. Virtual clothing basically will be how you dress up your digital avatars in the metaverse, right? Digital avatars in the metaverse, how are you going to dress them up, clothe them? Now, this is value. People willing to pay and buy clothes. People see a digital design of a cloth today as real value. 10 years ago, a digital design of a clothing item was just used to display on a website just to see. No one was going to pay for them. But today in a digital world, customers are willing to pay. So that means the non-fungible tokens, NFTs, have become value in the world, in the post-crisis business world, in the metaverse. And the best example, ladies and gentlemen, Nike started designing shoes for the metaverse. Nike started designing digital shoes for this virtual worlds of the metaverse. And recently they said, we've been selling these shoes online in the metaverse for people to buy and wear. And look at that, $185 million worth sales with virtual sneakers. Value, ladies and gentlemen. This is value. You're selling virtual shoes and people are willing to pay up to $185 million worth of total money and buy them, right? So, and some of these shoes, so they have issued about 20,000 of these shoes. And some of these shoes basically have been sold at $134,000 just for one pair. They call it as crypto kicks. It's the same technology like blockchain. NFTs run on the same technology. It's just that today people find this to be of value in the metaverse. And as I come to the end, how should information systems and accounting systems change on this matter? Well, in my view, the enterprise systems should be able to store and release NFTs much more easily. Future businesses, just like they have a warehouse for, physical goods, physical products, they need to have the ability or a digital storage of NFTs to store and to release them quickly. They should provide faster capabilities to create these NFTs. That's also important, right? Companies should be able to digitally create their own NFTs. And mind you, today, it's so easy. There are various platforms like Midjourney, Discord platform, where you can go describe what kind of an art you want, and using AI, you will be able to get that art generated just by describing what picture you want. Unbelievable level of advancements in AI, which can help towards the creation of NFTs for a metaverse world, because after all those metaverse homes will need nice arts and paintings. Then we talk about better tracking and blockchain ability. The corporate systems need to be able to track and see. If you look at Nike, for example, they are probably tracking where are the shoes that we produced and released, where are the shoes that we let the market know that are there and who has bought it. Because if you issue an NFT, the record has to be kept who owns it now. Because later on, if somebody wants to sell those shoes to somebody else, the buying party will want to know, is this actually belonging to this person? And that blockchain record of that NFT will be very helpful to know this is the original seller. Role of accounting. Well, I believe we have a lot of young students today from the finance sector, this being a business conference and accounting conference. Question is, young ladies and gentlemen, how do we recognize these NFTs in our financial statements? Accounting has to evolve to recognize these NFTs in our accounting statements. Right now, there are no accounting standards or statements in order to like recognize NFTs, digital assets, in our financial statements. But if a company is selling $185 million worth of it and getting revenue and profit, clearly we have to find a way to recognize them in the financial statements. Also, what about banks? Will banks be willing to accept NFTs as security, right? And most importantly, like if you go for a loan, will the bank say, okay, you can keep your NFTs as a guarantee? But more than anything, the issue of how to address asset volatility. You buy a land, the price stays almost the same or increases in value over time. You buy a vehicle, you have a value for that. And even at the end of 5 years, with certain depreciation, you can assume what the value will be. NFT values can change very quickly. We've seen last few months, Bitcoin price dropping drastically, then picking up again. This will be the biggest challenge in recognizing NFTs as an asset class in accounting. And that's something we need to address. The way forward, finally, I want to say that the global metaverse is basically, it's a market was valued at about USD billion, 63.83 billion in 2021. This is expected to grow up to 100 billion in 2022 and go all the way up to 1.5 trillion by 2029. But the questions we need to ask, the customers of Indonesia, of the main businesses, especially retail, not only retail, for anything for that matter, maybe in 10 years time, we will be seeing, the University of Brawijaya in the metaverse. We'll be seeing that, right? What value will your current customers expect from you in this metaverse? Is your organization ready to do that? And most importantly, what you're offering as at present, is it ready for the metaverse? If you're dealing with a clothing brand, how do you get them meta ready? If you are dealing with, let's say, a brand of vehicles, your people will be driving cars in the metaverse in the future. Are the vehicle companies ready to really start offering their vehicles in the metaverse? How metaverse ready are you as a person, and how metaverse ready is the business you work for? That, ladies and gentlemen, is the question that I want to leave you with at the end of my keynote. And Ms. Shireen, if there are any questions, I would like to take it now, since, as I mentioned, I have a flight later on, and I'm not sure whether I'll be available at that exact point of time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tarindu. It's very interesting to talk about metaverse or digital life in our. Okay, so for all participants, if you have any question for Mr. Tarindu, you can ask it right now.
Ms. Shireen, may I also share my email address, so if they have any questions later or related to research or anything, they could reach out to me. Is that all right?
Yes, it is completely all right. You can share your email address, Mr. Tarindu. So if all online participants here, if you have any question, you can ask it right away, or you can ask later to Mr. Tarindu through email address.
There you are.
Okay, it's on the chat room. Yeah.
Sharina, maybe it's a little too early in the morning to ask questions for the students. I understand that.
Okay. Okay. So I already hear many about what should we do about metaverse. And then about the metaverse, I would like to ask you. So, what is the most important thing that we should know, and how we prepare a business if it's about this digital life?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. In my view, Sharina, I would say that what you really need to understand is that metaverse is growing.
Okay.
And you need to realize where you can start. Start matters. Start definitely matters. So as a person, my advice is, as a person, get on the metaverse, create your avatar, pick one metaverse platform like Decentraland, create your avatar, and keep tweaking it, changing it, adjusting it. Number one. Then look at then you will begin to see how the other businesses are operating, and then ask yourself, how can I take my business to the metaverse? Which metaverse should I really be in? For example, if you are a fashion clothing brand, you have to recognize which metaverse is going to be having more young people involved and active. And that's where you go and set up the operation. Clothing brands like H&M have already set up their stores, digital stores, but they are doing it on selected metaverse platforms where they know that's where the customers that matter to them are. So most important thing, I would leave you with three things. Number one, it is the future and it's growing. Set up your own character in a metaverse and start exploring. I hope by the end of the conference today, we will have 151 more characters created in a selected metaverse. And number three, set up a small, simple basis, or rather, see small, simple operation for your business. See how it's going to be applicable, and keep growing it slowly and being relevant to the customers out there.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Tarindo. It's very interesting about how we should get and create as because we know that the metaverse is always growing and we should go on with that. Yes. Okay. So for the participant, is there any question before we going further to our next speaker?
Thank you very much, and wish everyone all the best.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Tarindu. Okay. Okay, I think because there's no any other question, we will now continue to our next speaker. Okay. So we will now welcome our third speaker. So we have here Professor J. Rajasekera. So I will introduce a short profile about Professor J. So J. Rajasekera is currently Professor of Digital Business and Strategy at the Institute of International Strategy in Tokyo International University, and also served as a Vice President. Professor Rajasekera's professional career started in 1984 at Bell Laboratories in New Jersey, USA, upon earning his PhD from North Carolina State University. Among his many contributions at Bell Laboratories, he designed a repeater optimization computer algorithm for the construction of the world's first undersea fiber optic cable, TATA, between the US and Europe, which saved millions of dollars of construction costs. His patent algorithm has been in use for designing multi-billion-dollar undersea fiber optic cable systems, which carry a large percentage of the internet traffic today for major telecommunication carriers. He also earned the Special Contribution Award twice by Bell Laboratories. These algorithms help AT&T save millions more and win undersea cable projects around the world, totaling more than 20 billion USD. In addition, one of his online scheduling systems has been in use for accepting multi-billion dollars of order per year using technology. So Professor J, the time is yours.
Thank you so much, Nilo. So I'm very happy to be here in this conference. I'm now in Tokyo and talking to you from Tokyo International University of Japan, Campus 1. So I like to share my screen. Can I do that?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So today I'm going to talk about something called DEXPO. And DEXPO is a framework that I came up with, uh, uh, when I want to explain about the digital transformation to businesses. Okay, and so digital transformation, yeah, I think everyone has heard of, and the previous speaker, mentioned something called metaverse, and metaverse is also part of these digital changes that is going on in the world. So the DEXPO framework, and I like to explain as the expansion of the digital transformation into process optimization. The processes are things, that when we do some activity and we go through different processes, right? And if you want to sell a car, for example, and we have to get the car, to the dealership and then do the paperwork and all kind of things. So those are called processes, okay? So I like to, in fact, focus on this one, and particularly for accounting area, particularly strategic accounting. Accounting is a kind of a major pillar of business. Allocating money, getting the payments from customers, and then the paying the suppliers, etc., etc. And also, allocating money for research, development, etc. So all kind of things are involved in this accounting process. And so how you apply this digital transformation in there, and based on DEXPO framework. Okay, so you have to take into account the staff, the IT resources you have, if you want to use this, and in your organization, and then to understand the business process. And also, I bring something called the design thinking, and the design thinking is a kind of a new way of and not designing the products, but designing how things work. Okay, and into the picture, and then how you apply the digital technologies and how you prioritize them, which one to do first and which one to do next, etc. Okay, and so you probably have heard of something called the data-driven the decision making. With the expansion of data, things becoming computerized. The workplaces become the computerized, and the hospitals become computerized, factories become, and so much of data, and this data-driven decision making has become a major topic around the world now. How you use, before you make some decision, how to use the facts. Okay, and earlier, of course, people used to do these kind of things based on experience and looking at reports, etc. But with the expansion of the technologies, and then you can do this much more comfortably, much more quicker, and much more intelligently than we ourselves can do. Because the jobs that that we had to do also had become very complex, and so that a human, no matter what kind of human, it's very difficult to look at all the sides in the same time. And so this kind of the data-driven process and the decision making helps us to make some better, intelligent, and more efficient solutions. So now this is a diagram, and you don't have to read all of this. Let me see, there's a chat message here. Okay, something else. I was reading a chat message I saw in this conference. So this diagram explains kind of processes. Sometimes when the processes belong to some kind of can be grouped together, and we call it an operation. For example, all the manufacturing processes, and we put together and we call manufacturing operation. And likewise, and we can say service operation. And operation is made up of these processes. Okay. And operation can be improved by improving processes. So accounting is also one such operation. And if you look up that way, large organizations, it's a major operation. And then, if it is a business is small, it's a small operation, or sometimes we don't call it a operation. We just call it accounting process. We just call it accounting. Okay, so depending on the size, and so I explained here, and the digital transformation, as I think many of you probably heard about it, and the way that the DEXPRO framework works is you analyze the process, and the accounting, for example, is one important process, and DEXPRO is the framework for applying digital technologies strategically using digital the design thinking. I put here digital. I'm sorry. This should be design thinking. So you bring design thinking idea also into the picture, and then use the digital technologies to improve the process. Okay, using the design thinking idea. So DEXPRO can make accounting process also more strategic. Not just do the bookkeeping and and make the payments and pay the bills, etc., but do it in a more strategic way by looking at this framework. And so design thinking, I'm sure some of you may have seen already, and it's a process. In fact, this process, design thinking became big, in fact, thanks to Steve Jobs. I wrote an article, why Apple not Sony. It is a little old article, and I explain here the design thinking and how Steve Jobs, designed the first, the Apple products, starting with the iPod, then iPhone, and all these, the products that basically revolutionized, the way that we are working and we are doing business and everything. And so after his use of this design thinking, in fact, it became prominent. And those business schools, like Stanford University, etc., Harvard University, big schools, they picked up, and then they became now a major kind of a discussion in the business world. And this design thinking goes through 5 stages, basically. One is you emphasize with the customer. Say you are making any product. In the accounting process, many times it's an internal thing. So your customers, maybe majority of them are maybe people who are doing this accounting thing in the organization, staff people, etc. And you think about their job, and so that's what we call empathize. You take their role and see what kind of pain. Sometimes when you do some of this your job, you find a lot of difficulties to do your job, and you find it very inefficient. You copy the same thing over and over again, and you have to find some information, and the other information you have to go somewhere else, etc. So inefficiency and the quality of work. Sometimes you make errors because they are not. It's very difficult to check all the lines. So this is one part of the design thinking process. Empathize with as a customer. Then you refine, and you think about and what kind of things that you may need to improve this thing, to make it easier for the user, for the person that who's suffering. We call it pain, going through the pain of doing their business. And sometimes it could be a person, it could be another process there. Through that process, the products, for example, in a factory, the factory is not making the machine which make that product making a lot of errors. Okay, so when you look up the person, operator of that machine, the major trouble now is how to reduce this problem, of making that bad products, right? So something you have to do with that machine. And so then, you ideate it, and meaning that you brainstorm, and you brainstorm with people. Now, this is where the people come in. So you need people who could understand this, what is going on, And this is a major point for digital transformation. Can you do this digitally? For example, the machines that make bad products, and sometimes you cannot inspect all the products. So there are a lot of new ways now to monitor these things, and the electronically, through sensors, etc. And thereby you gradually improve the machine using like the Deming cycle, etc., etc. And then you make a prototype of this solution, and then you test it. Okay, so this is called the design thinking process. And here there are two things. One is to discuss this number 2 point that you see in green. You need good people who would understand this and who could immediately see a solution. That's what Steve Jobs did. When he saw something, and when people, in the old days, somebody putting buttons in their phones, and he realized, oh, can we do this, in the electronically, have a touch screen. And then he looked for it, because then it just went to his mind. And the similar thing, with all his products. And he thought, oh, maybe this can be done, electronically in an easy way using software. So you need some kind of people. I'm not talking like you have Steve Jobs in all the organization, but somebody who understands the very basic ones, that you can do this electronically. That's all you need. There are a lot of people, once you do pass that step, you can find a lot of people to do it, but you must understand. And then, you do it, and then prototype, and this is the other people. Okay. And so this is based on this article I mentioned. So in the digital transformation processes, I've seen, based on my own research, there are 3 ways that this digital transformation have worked in the world. In the old days, usually the big companies, with the big IT resources, they used to do it. They have people, IT people, and they know what is going on in the business, and then they can do it. But other companies who don't have that thing, and they couldn't do it. And then, there's some people over the time, and some internal people got hold of these IT ideas, but they don't have the resources, and to do the job. So the second option that after the first one, the big companies using the technology, was the medium size and the large companies which didn't have IT kind of organizations, big IT. They are not the mainstream IT companies like IBM, the Microsoft, etc. Not that type of IT companies, but banks, the hospitals, big manufacturers, etc. And then they had some people who would understand this thing. This can be done using technology. And then they didn't have the resources. They tied up with the strategic part. Okay, and then they communicate and then understand, and then they build a system. And so this is another form of digital transformation. And then this the things go a little bit into the small, medium-sized companies, and the companies, like schools, universities, hospitals, etc. They have very weak IT departments. Particularly in Japan, for example, if you go to a hospital, the IT department is just maintenance. They change the printers, the toners, and they keep track of the network and all those things. But somebody else and do the IT work. And so I would classify them as weak internally. But these days also, these weak companies, and they have gotten used to cloud because they don't have people to maintain their heavy IT resources, infrastructure. So they're relying on the cloud. So they have cloud partners. So these are 3 cases I like to discuss. And then when it goes to the processes also, and you can think about the process, the customer-oriented process. Somebody who's using the process or who's getting the benefit of that process, and they are the customers, and they have pain points. So you make a product, and that product is not good quality. So the customers, are the people who buy that product, and then they complain, oh, this is not good, it doesn't work. And on the same time, customers can be internal people in an organization. And they always complain, oh God, this is taking too much time. This one, this one, and it's very easy to make errors, etc. So these are the pain points of customers. It can be internal, it can be outside. And then the strategic part. And this comes sometimes under the managerial accounting type roles. And the organization has to think about the tangible and intangible. Tangible means like cost savings, and the increase in the efficiency and the increase in the productivity, those kind of tangible things, or intangible things, like the improving the quality and the brand awareness and the as such intangible benefits, but that brings customers. Okay. And sometimes you have to do things to stay competitive, because your other people, who are in your same kind of the sector, business sector, they have implemented these things, and now you have to compete with them. So your main task is to stay competitive. Okay, so these are the things that happen in the digital transformation settings. Okay, and let me give some examples. So I have 3 examples, maybe 2 I'll discuss today, because of the time and other things. And the internal DX team, let's see, have good IT team internally, and then you can do everything inside. So one example is Shinsei Bank, and this is a bank that went bankrupt in Japan. It was originally a government bank, okay, which gave loans after the war in Japan to small medium companies. It's a big bank, but it went bankrupt. When it went bankrupt, American fund bought this bank for $10 million. Okay, it's not a very big money for a bank, but that was a situation because no bank wanted to buy it. So and no Japanese bank wanted to buy it. So the American, this fund, and they came and bought it for $10 million. And so they changed it. Within 2 years, in fact, this fund, went into listed in the Tokyo Stock Exchange. The market capitalization became $2 billion. 10 million to 2 billion. You can see the percentage increase, right? And so they did it using this digital transformation. They use a customer-driven strategy. Okay, and the customer-driven strategy, and basically they had tangible ones like increase the revenue, and they develop strategic applications, many using the intangible kind of benefits to get the customers. Okay, and they had the internal DX team. And so I talked to them, Mr. Yoshihiro was the president of this bank. And when I went to see him, in fact, I had met him at he was at the former president of the Citibank Japan. So I knew him before, and so he became the president of Shinsei. After that, Americans bought the bank. And then he hired Mr. Divedi. Mr. Divedi also used to be in Citibank. So he had a big IT team, and I go quickly. So they look at what is wrong with this bank, and they realize, that the people are not coming to this bank, and also because of their facilities are very outdated, and then difficult to do business, okay, etc. And they also notice the macro kind of changes going on in Japan. The number of the individual banking, the consumer banking became more prominent. People started, building homes, they get loans and stuff like that. And so the consumer banking became big, while the corporate banking sector kind of decreasing. This happened because due to that time, the Japan was going through some the reorganization of their business caused by the banking crisis, and so this was going down, and the consumer banking increasing. So they wanted to attract consumers more, okay, by giving them something benefits, So they look at the processes, pain points. What are the pain points for customers? I'm sorry if you had heard that bell. I'm in my office in TRU, and so we have some changing of time. It's at 12:30 here in Tokyo, and so this is a bell, for the lunch break. So ATM fees are the greatest cause of dissatisfaction. Many Japanese charge ATM fees when you transfer the money from one account to the other. There's a charge, and so if you want to get more customers, they thought, oh, this is a good place to attack. Let's make it free, and then people will come. And so this is just one example. They have so many other things too, and the various touch screens, and and then and also for foreigners in Tokyo, they can change it to language to English, etc. And they and the intuitive interfaces. Sometimes the interfaces in Japanese ATMs very difficult to figure out, and even for Japanese, and so make them intuitive, easy to use, and they use digital technologies, and by doing so, the bank, and they cut down the cost of their impact for doing all of them, and this is a little diagram, little chart I made after talking to them, the LTBC, and they spend their annual budget of 200 billion yen, okay, and but the typical, I'm sorry, the LTBC was the previous, before the bankruptcy, okay, the previous bank, LTCB, spent 200 billion, it's almost like $2 billion, okay, for their IT budget. And this news, the Shinsei did it we cut down into almost like $10 billion. Imagine, 200 billion to 10 billion, big decrease, right? But they did it, with the using the digital technologies. So when I went to see them, in fact, Mr. Yoshiro, over here, and Mr. DVD told me, after they set up this system, the world's biggest the computer company came to see them, see how they did it, and also the biggest telecommunication company in Japan came to see them. He didn't want to name the names, the companies, but he said they just came here to see what we did. So that shows, how kind of new and that time, and the revolutionary, this kind of the digital transformation in this financial sector, and which is also related to accounting. Okay, and my second, the one that I like to share with you is internal, but not very strong, and but they had some people, and who could see this can be done using technology. Okay. So this one, they found a strategic partner. The internal company is Toyota, and the strategic partner is SAP. Okay, this is now SAP. I believe everyone had heard, because they are very big on accounting. Also, they have an accounting module, and some schools teach them also, as a practical course in accounting using SAP cloud. So, but this happened, number of years ago, and they Toyota had the deal with SAP, and so the company, and so the company-wide accounting system, and so they were using, okay, but they wanted to speed up, revolutionize it, faster response, drive growth strategy, and then they found that SAP is a good partner, strategic partner, and they work together, okay, minimize the customization and deploy it quick. And here again, so these are the kind of processes and the operations that I copied, in fact, from this their website in SAP. This is published as a case, and so these are the various kind of operations I was telling you, and here you see SAP is here doing the major part, and now with the cloud thing, that there are many other companies also, cloud companies also, they specialize on some parts of the strategy, some parts of the data visualization, for example, some part of analytics, some involving AI or machine learning, and those kind of things. Now also involved that probably they do better or cheaper than SAP. So they also can tap in and do the parts of the jobs. So this is a big picture. Okay. And this again, now if you want to apply the DEX4 framework, you look up here and then you find which are the main, the so-called pain points, internal customers or outside customers. And then, you kind of can rank them. In fact, this is the worst that we have to do this quickly, but to do that quickly, you need the right people. Okay, so this is another concern. So you identified it correctly, maybe, but do we have enough people to do this, right people to do it? So that's another one to decide. Okay, so two things that I use in DEX4 framework and using that design thinking. Okay, and so then you focus on those processes and do it. So you see some 3 companies here you may have heard, Copa and Okta and Salesforce. And many of these companies, in fact, are US companies, because they have mastered this cloud system. Because many cloud, the operators, as you know, Amazon, Azure, from Microsoft, Google, Apple, etc., they are all US companies. But recently, there are, of course, some Chinese companies like Alibaba, etc., and getting into the picture. And in the US, there are a lot of these kind of the cloud companies supporting these kind of activities also there. So you can use them also, because you don't have the internal people to do this. AI, machine learning, all these new things, if you want to develop it, it's a big job. In fact, Toyota itself found it difficult, to use AI. And they signed a deal with the 2 universities in the US, paying $1 billion to each university to train the Toyota people, So this is not a very cheap job, but you can do this. If you have few people who knows this can be done, okay, that's all you need. And so then they design, those screens and other things. And sometimes they call them cockpits. In fact, cockpit idea is a kind of an innovation of SAP. In fact, I saw the cockpit first time when I went to see Mr. Yoshiro at Citibank in Tokyo. Okay, I went to his office and he was sitting on a chair, and he can turn around, and there were screens, And then he said, "Oh, gee, this is what my job is." And he look at the screens and then make decisions. Okay, those screens were sold by SAP. At that time, it was quite expensive. But he told me the amount of money he paid to SAP that time, Citibank. Okay, and so these are kind of the cockpits. Okay, and so you see that this is a diagram also I copied, from SAP, and this is cockpit. You see, cockpit, right? When you go into the airplane, you see the pilots looking at a similar thing. But here the decisions are business decisions. Where the problems and where we have the growth, and how do you use it strategically. Oh, this is a growing area. Let's and this is a kind of not growing, and this is negative revenue, and so we have to focus on it. All these things can be done by looking at this cockpit, just like you pilot the plane, and by looking at that, right? And the same thing in here, all accumulated. SAP provide that the ERP framework, and you use it strategically. This needs people to understand. Okay, so this the results: automated reporting with real-time dashboard, and automated payment of vendors for service redeemed by customers. 50% reduction in integration costs, 30% faster time due to quicker development. Now, I also forgot to mention in that Shinsei case, many Japanese banks suffered that time because the people were not paying their mortgages back on time. Then I asked that question in Shinsei Bank, how long it takes for you to see that people are not paying their mortgage? They said it's real time. Whereas a typical Japanese bank that time took 3 months to see who's not paying the mortgage. Okay, so that's why in fact many banks had big problem, called the non-payment, the loan problem, and that kind of, before this financial crisis in Indonesia happened, it happened in Japan, and so many banks, and I have written another case about Mizuho Bank, and based on this one. Okay, so the third, the thing is very weak partner, and and then the weak company, the IT wise, and they don't have basically IT people. Maybe 1 or 2 people just maintain the printers and the internet, and as a part-time job, and then but these days many companies, particularly after this pandemic, and they have gotten into cloud because they work from home, etc., and force them. So many SME companies are the main users of this type of thing, and they have cloud, and they use the cloud accounting, system. The people too, there are many cloud accounting systems for SMEs now, in the FreshBooks, QuickBooks, etc., that you may have heard, right? So these are the 3 stages that the companies go through. Some big companies, very large companies still have their internal, accounting is internal, using that, sometimes some of them completely internal. And I read recently that about only maybe 50% of the big companies use this, the third-party accounting, because they are legacy systems, and insurance companies, etc., and so they have their own accounting departments, very big, but they are gradually moving to the cloud because of the security and also the inefficiency. The internal one is very inefficient and costly. Okay? So the DX4 strategic accounting, and you look at the old system, you need internal IT experts. What they do is they propose the idea, they get budget, and then hire the staff and deploy the process optimization as a strategy. New one is strategic leadership. Okay, and you use design thinking. People now know that there's something called design thinking, and find pain points. Implementing strategy, you look at again internal and the cloud, the internal, depending again on the size of the company, and their IT department. And sometimes they have big IT, sometimes they don't have. And IT departments are going down, in fact, recently, even in big IT companies, and the IT kind of, like Tesla, for example, and they are cutting down the internal IT things. And then, you have to use the cloud. And then, you use the local, the DX experts also. There are, in fact, many on the internet now. There are people, who provide, you can hire them, quickly, but you need somebody internally to use them. Okay, and there are a lot of job sites like Upwork, etc., and which list up these people. You may have heard in the United States, a lot of people working in the companies, they're quitting. But they are not quitting. They are quitting, and then they are finding jobs in these sites that they offer freelancing. Okay, so a lot of these freelancing people are also there, particularly for SME type people and accounting jobs, and you can use these people cheaper. Okay, and now how do you decide, strategically this part? So I created this chart, and so accounting process, you look at the processes. Let's go P1, P2, P3. These are different processes. Okay, I just give now. Then use the design thinking, and then based on design thinking, you can check what is the customer value for this process. How much value in terms of customers bring to the company, So, you give a scale of 1 to 10 and you give some points. Okay, this is very important. Okay, as a process. And because this is where the customers suffer most, or this is more strategically tangible, intangible, and you give points. And then implementation team. Okay, and now you have to be careful, to put this number. This also 10 means you have the team already. Okay, but if you don't have the team, then you cannot give a high number. You give a low number. Okay, so by doing that, you multiply these two and you get a number. I call it impact. Okay, so impact, and then you can rank the impact. And so that's how you optimize, this the which process to do first, which to do second, etc., etc. By doing so, and you have the this is you have the ranking, and then you can decide, which one to do first, which one to do second, etc., etc. So before I go down, I in fact just recently, in fact today they are releasing this one, and I explained this DEX4 program, DEX4 approach in this video. This is created by Asia Productivity Organization here, okay, and in Tokyo, and so they created this one, and enhancing productivity through DEX4, and this will be released today from 2 o'clock. And if anybody want URL, I can type the URL at the end. But because of the time, I'm going to finish this. And any questions and answers? Questions.
Thank you very much, Professor Jay. So it's very interesting about how we doing digital transformation and how we optimize the process. So for the Q&A session, it will be held after all keynote speakers finish their presentation. So we will now move on to our next speaker. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have this URL. If you want any, I can send that URL right now. Is it okay? Or
okay, so
I can wait till the Q&A too.
Okay, so Q&A session will be held about 1 hour.
1 hour. Really?
So, we have 2 more speakers, and
okay,
everyone will deliver their slides about 30 minutes.
Yeah, I have a paper on that with the Toyota versus Apple paper, and if somebody wants, and I can also this is my email address if somebody want to contact me, and
Okay.
I can send those things, and yeah, and the URL for that this presentation, and
Okay, thank you very much. Yes.
yeah, I can send that to you also. And
Okay.
from today 2 p.m., 2 p.m. Japan time, and you can access this one. All right. So thank you so much, everyone, and thank you all. And
Okay,
thank you.
Okay, thank you so much,
Yeah,
Professor
yeah.
Jay. Now we will moving on, and we will have here our 4th keynote speaker is Dr. Ranjit PV. So Dr. Ranjit PV has over 18 years of experience in academics. He is a PhD in service quality with interest of operation management, quality management, quantitative technique, analysis of projects, and etc. He has published papers in different phases of management in reviewed journals, and he has attended different workshops conducted by Academy of International Business and is in the review committee of aibpm. He has worked in Reputed College in Mumbai, India, and now currently working as Associate Professor at Christ University, deemed to be University, Bangalore, India. He is well versed with SPSS and marketing engineering tools. The endeavor to learn new things and share that knowledge among the stakeholders like students, faculty members, and corporate community has helped him immensely in his professional life. Okay, so Dr. Ranjit, the time is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, aibpm for speaker. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, very clear.
Can I share my screen?
Yes, please, Doctor.
Just hold on, sir.
Okay.
Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Thank you all for inviting me as the keynote speaker. My name is Ranjit. I'm working as associate professor at Christ Deemed to be University, Bangalore, India. I was contemplating on the topic because these are the times when we think about the pandemic. These are the times when we think about what is happening across the world, different uncertainties, wars, and everything happening. But I then thought, let me talk in a very general format with respect to challenges and opportunities in business, rather than specifying myself with respect to the after the COVID pandemic or before that, because I don't think it's right for us to find out one specific reason why business is doing well or bad. So rather than focusing on one point, I thought, let me just have a cover up of the entire thing. Please understand these are some of the viewpoints which I've got from materials and one or two points from my side. So there might be difference of opinion which we can discuss later on. I have focused myself in 2-3 specific areas. One on how the technology is moving. I think the speaker from Sri Lanka has already spoken about it. I'm also specifying on how the employees are affected. Also something specific on branding, because that becomes an absolute customer experience rather than saying a branding. You can say customer experience. For example, maybe sometime back, there was one ad which I saw in which one small kid goes with her mother to a hospital, and she wanted an opinion. She wanted a consultants. So the receptionist told, "What is your name?" So the girl says, "My name is so and so." Then the next question, receptionist asks, "What is your problem?" Right? So she says, "My problem is I want to." Her mother says, actually, the problem is tonsils removal. But unfortunately, the receptionist has the name associated with hip replacement. So she says, "Your name is associated with hip replacement. How can it be a tonsil removal?" Right? Then there's a small debate happening over there. But interestingly, then the lady next step, the reception says, how was my response to you, in terms of feedback? Very good, good. So rather than solving the problem, she was asking for the feedback. This would have happened around maybe a decade ago. But now, if this kind of experience happens for any one of us, we will not be able to get on with the business. And that's where we are talking about challenges and opportunities in business. Let me go to the slides. So these are the 2-3 things which I am talking about: outlook for employees in general, and challenges and opportunities, which is the main crux of the talk, and finally conclusion. So if you look at it, interestingly, 2018 human intervention was around 71%. Now in 2025, in 2 years, 3 years from now, you can see it is 48%. 52% will be taken over by the machine. So from 29 to 50 to almost 140 times, more than almost twice the machine occupancy has increased in terms of jobs. So you can see that how difficult it will be for employees in the coming scenario to cope up with the entire business, right? How employees are going to be taken into consideration for business. So that's something which we have to really think of. The challenges and opportunities, which is the main area for me, put on artificial intelligence, because that's something which is very, very important now. So now most of the businesses are AI enabled, and that's basically not helping the employee situation unless you have the technology to support you. So the human intervention technology is going to be a very, very interesting scenario from now on. Talent pool is now diversified. You can see that people are going to different countries to work, especially in IT and even in higher education. And work-life balance has now become a critical component, especially in Asian countries. It's a little bit maybe better in other countries because they have policies and guidelines, but in Asian countries, work-life balance has now become a critical component. The major problem which I feel is, rather than giving a customer service, we should focus on customer experience, right? And I'm going to give one or two examples on how customers should feel when they are associated with the brand. Of course, managing quality, this has been a problem for a long time. Now there's more focus on that. Management of agile reverse supply chain especially happened during the pandemic, to be precise. Agility, flexibility, efficiency, and along with that, having a component of customer coming in or reverse supply chain becomes absolutely essential. And obviously, smart manufacturing, which is always there, but it has become much more important now. So, needless to say, artificial intelligence definitely helps in customer service to understand what customers want, what are their extra things, how do they delight the customer, right? They will help you in cross-selling of the brands. So the companies will be able to sell much more wider products because of pinpointed needs and wants of the customer. And obviously, managing the needs of the customers will also become essential, and AI will help a lot in that. Artificial intelligence, if implemented properly, which is again a very important area, can reduce the risk of business. So it can help to improve the profitability, thereby decreasing the cost in terms of production, in terms of selling, etc., and increase the efficiency. Obviously, through this, AI will definitely help in improving the productivity, but how do you balance it? The biggest question even now in most of the companies and most of the countries is how to balance our usage of technology and the skill force, or rather the employees. How do you balance it? That becomes an important thing. Recently, I read an article saying that in World Cup cricket, which is going to happen in Australia in October, especially in the initial stage, they're going to use a lot of artificial intelligence in improving the broadcast of the entire telecast, so that customers will get a better viewing experience. So a lot of cases are happening in other areas like sports also, in terms of utilization of artificial intelligence. If I want to implement artificial intelligence, the biggest question is it imbibed in my mission statement? Is it there in my vision which the company has? So will it differentiate myself from the competition? That becomes very, very important. Do I want to become agile, or you want to be and keep up with the competition, keep up with the pace, become more customer oriented, right? That becomes an important question. We definitely have to train the employee to understand the value of usage of AI. That's important. But fourth point, which is very, very essential, the importance of security, right? The data security has now become very, very important, because lot of us can be in trouble if we don't secure our data. And if it can happen to us, think about the companies, how much of data security lapses can happen if artificial intelligence is not implemented properly. Of course, infrastructure required for it, the amount of investment required for the company's viewpoints, the company has to be ready mentally to invest in technology. That becomes the biggest question. And obviously, the legal issues like where to implement, how do I balance it, how employees can be given responsibilities at the same time, having a artificial intelligence implementation. So a lot of issues with respect to legality becomes essential. So if we can manage these issues and think about how do I become, how do I balance my employee management with artificial intelligence or technology? How do I manage my security? How do I make it legally viable? Then definitely artificial intelligence will help in improving how customers think, how we can satisfy the customer or delight the customer, and definitely how we can get into a different kind of scenario in terms of how we manage the competition. From artificial intelligence, this is one more area which definitely is important. Look at the brand building, so artificial intelligence definitely will help a lot in brand building. It will help in lead generation, customer acquisition, right? A lot of areas where it is there. If you see that the major improvement which is given in that kind of yellow color, you can see that brand building is where the major improvement happens because of artificial intelligence, right? So you can see that, and look at that lead generation, customer acquisition, upselling, customer retention, advocacy, all customer-oriented factors can be improved by using artificial intelligence, which becomes very, very important takeaway from us. From artificial intelligence, now if you look at it, the major issue which is happening is the employee. How do they think, right? What is now talking about diverse talent pool? So there was a study conducted, and this study talks about this was a study conducted by McKinsey and Company. This talks about how employees think about it. And you see, better work-life balance is what the companies are looking for. Sorry, employees are looking for. Followed by better flexibility, positive implications, increased focus. So first four factors, if you see, all are related to work-life balance and well-being, right? So that's something which is what employees are hoping for the future. Fear regarding on-site work, if you look at it, the major fear again is work-life balance. So that talks volumes about what employees are thinking about the advent of technology, advent of competition. They're feeling that it will affect their work-life balance, right? So that's something which companies have to worry. The fear regarding remote work, again, if you look at it, the major problem is they're talking about is work-life balance. So if you look at the whole thing, the companies have to understand that managing the work-life balance, managing the employee well-being becomes essential if you want to go ahead by taking employees together for the future. So this is something which is connected to the employee management. A study by Gartner, 6% of employees, 76, 3/4, maybe from remote countries, they'll be online. So this is what is the worry for us, because see, now it has become so diverse, right? So how do I manage it along with the technology, along with some people who are so remote? That's going to be a challenge, along with how to balance the work life. Turnover will increase definitely, and this is already mentioned by Gartner. How do I manage my work-life balance? Let's come from there to employee side, artificial intelligence side, to the customer viewpoint. So when we look at the customer experience, what the study says that brands should provide care, trust, and safety to the customer. Now people are worried about customer experience, right? Trust. Can I trust that? Customer wants to be delighted. There's an example of Ritz-Carlton, which is very interesting. So this is, in fact, a stuffed giraffe, which was a famous example of Ritz-Carlton. If you read that example, the example says, when a young boy realized he had left his beloved stuffed giraffe at Ritz-Carlton at Amelia Island, he was obviously very distraught because he loved that giraffe. His dad told him that Joshi is that giraffe name, was just taking an extra few days of vacation at the hotel, would be back soon. But he forgot that in the hotel. So the dad called the hotel and said that this is what has happened. And he wanted some pictures. He can get it later, but he wanted some pictures of that stuffed giraffe. So what Ritz-Carlton did was, they took a picture of that stuffed giraffe, and they sent it to the hotel. So the hotel they took the pictures of Joshi, who's the stuffed giraffe, everywhere over the hotel, getting a spa, getting a massage at the spa, driving a golf cart, making new friends. So they packaged all those pictures into a book, right? With different pictures of that stuffed giraffe and sent to the boy. So while the boy reached the home, he got the entire booklet online. And along with that, obviously, the giraffe was also sent later on. So look at the delight which the boy has by getting all those pictures which he never expected. So we are talking about experience, delight. We're not talking about just the service. That's where we are now going. And I think all the companies have to look into providing what is extra for the customer rather than just giving a service. There are some more examples which are there of brand experiences. There's a fragrance brand, DS and Durga. They have introduced something called as Fume Truck, which is a mobile pop-up shop in Wales. So while going, the and a lot of experiences can be customers can have because it's mobile, so you can buy it on the way. Spatial, this AR/VR platform, augmented reality platform, creates three-dimensional avatars, different kinds of important personalities for virtual interaction, right? Like a Batman or something like that. Music giant Spotify, they are now looking into podcast. Podcast has now become huge now. So they are utilizing how podcasts can be utilized. Taco Bell had definitely is a legend in terms of giving more delivery. And a lot of car dealers are now going to online sales, which is happening. All these examples are talking about providing customer experience, customer delight, and which is helping the brand to go to a different level. See, that's another some examples of social media, which is giving brand experience, how what they are providing. A Jeep brand talking about first images of the product called Cherokee. So what exactly is the Jeep? Zero emission, 100% free. So that's something which they are definitely talking about, right? So that message is coming into that. So you're experiencing the brand from the ad. From that, we'll now go into quality. This is something which is obviously there, but now we are focusing more on the environment with respect to the green marketing, green production, etc. Cloud-based platforms which will help to modify, adjust quality with respect to what customers want. Obviously, quality of suppliers, which is obvious because otherwise the quality of output will not be there. And increase decision intelligence by using better optimization techniques, by better technology utilization. We are now focusing mainly on precise decision making in terms of quality. So that's something which is doing and along with partners, we need process improvement in this. We need management involvement in this. A long way to go before quality, you can say, has reached that stage where customers will be absolutely delighted. Definitely, we are in the era of agility in terms of supply chain. Giving what customers want, modify whenever required, right? This is happening in a lot of companies, happening in service industries, happening in mobiles, right? So that agility and flexibility is provided for giving the product on time with necessary modifications. We are now talking about reverse logistics where customer becomes very important. So whatever customers require, based on that, the production can happen. And if anything is required in terms of designing, redesigning, that can be done and given back. So a lot of reverse logistics coming in. So that's already there. It's increasing only by Definitely, we are again talking about lean and agile manufacturing. A lot of confusion happening here or doubts happening here because in during pandemic, companies which are following lean manufacturing definitely were affected because they were not able to give the products on time to the, but still lean manufacturing in terms of efficiency is still a very, very important methodology. But how we can balance lean versus agility so that customers will get the product on time is now going to be the question going ahead. And definitely we have what we call as smart manufacturing, which is already there for a long time. We are now focusing more on that along with flexibility in manufacturing, reduction of cost, agility. We are also talking about manufacturing in a very definite way using better technology so that minimizing waste will be our priority. We are all talking about sustainability in the long run. So that's going to happen in all sectors, especially in manufacturing. So in conclusion, what I wanted to talk about is dynamic changes in business outlook in terms of technology, in terms of brand experience, in terms of quality, etc. Employee management, work-life balance, that becomes very important now. Supply chain risk, right? We talked about agility, green supply chain management, focus on customer experience, improving the technology like artificial intelligence, new markets, and focus on giving better service, right? This is also very important now. Innovations in communications, not only in employee communication, but communication to the customer. Something which I did not mention, blockchain technology, which definitely has come in big way, still long way to go. Augmented reality for, especially for viewing experiences, right? So we are going to be in a different world in a decade or so in terms of how we watch programs. Path-breaking innovations in science, not only in technology, but in terms of science like nanoscience and all those sort of areas. Radical changes in education. The best example is how education is changing in India. For example, we are implementing in the national education policy, giving opportunities for students to take up different areas of expertise along with their core areas so that they will be comfortable in going into any kind of opportunities in industries, right? It will become multifaceted. They will become multifaceted and able to meet the challenges in a better fashion. So a lot of things are happening in terms of education also. Thank you for your time. That completes my presentation. Thank you, BICAB again, and thank you, aibpm. Thank you. Thank you, madam.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Rajit. So I kindly remind that there will be a Q&A session after all keynote speakers finish their presentation. And now we will moving on to last but not least, we have Dr. Liu Tekyu as the last keynote speaker. So I will introduce. Okay, Dr. Liu Tekyu is an associate professor at the Department of Management, Marketing and Digital Business, Faculty of Business, Curtin University, Malaysia. His areas of research interest are future of work, psychological capital, employee engagement, organizational commitment, job performance, and psychological well-being. He holds a PhD in human research development and has published over 30 journal articles in peer-reviewed journals such as Employee Relations, Sustainability, International Journal of Culture, Tourism and Hospitality Research, Asia Pacific Journal of Marketing and Logistics, International Journal of Leisure and Tourism Marketing, Journal of Asia Business Studies, Sarawak Development Journal, and Bankers Journal Malaysia. So, Dr. Liu, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Let me upload my slides, yeah?
Yes.
I hope you can see the slides. Can you?
Okay, we can see the slide.
Can see. I put into the full screen first. Can you see the slides right now? Okay,
Yes.
right. Okay, thank you very much. All right, thank you for the organizers of the 2022 Brawijaya International Conference in Accounting and Business for inviting me to be one of the keynote speakers. From moving on from the supply chain management topic, we are now moving into a different topic, emphasizing on the roles of HRM practices, human resource management, in developing positive psychology in organizations. Okay, so this is a topic that is particularly interesting and relevant for, I think most of the audiences here are candidates, PhD candidates or management candidates and all that, and also academics. So it will be very interesting for people who pursue the management and OB topics, all right? But it's also general for others as well. So this is the area that I'll be presenting. I'm going to present a positive psychology framework for organizations, which I've developed myself based on the literature of positive psychology, as well as we will look at what is positive psychology, what is positive OB, and the roles of HRM in developing positive psychology, and some examples of HRM roles, as well as the underpinning theories. Okay, so I hope I can do it within half an hour. Okay. All right, so if you look at this, this diagram, typical shown here, on the top left-hand corner, you can see the levels of positive psychology. What I'm trying to say, the levels is like when you want to develop, or when organizations want to develop positive psychology among their employees, so that they are positive all the time, have a positive attitude and emotion, it sits in 3 levels. One is their subjective experience. Okay, the other one is the individual level, and the other one is the group level, as well as some of these HRM intervention could be one-off or structural. Later I'll explain more on that. Okay, levels. And next, we have what you call as positive organizational behavior, where organization actually optimize the HR strengths of their employee. So optimizing the strength, managing the employees by their strengths rather than looking at their limitations or weaknesses. And the other one is to develop their psychological capacities. Okay, this is very, very important. Later I'll tell you. I'll talk about 3 theories that can be used to understand the concept of positive psychology, as well as giving you some examples of HRM roles that can help organizations to develop positive psychology among their employees. Okay, first off, before we go even further, you may want to know what is positive psychology. All right, positive psychology basically means employees having a sense of positive experience in their work. Because once employees feel that they are positive, they feel good, the organization will do well. That is the assumption of positive psychology. As well as they develop positive individual traits. And because evidence in the literature suggests that, you know, positive psychology interventions, which means if HRM can help to foster positive psychology, it will enhance the employees' well-being. Because as we all know, post-pandemic, right, or even endemic now, well-being has become a very important employee needs. So organizations need to facilitate that process. And as a result, the performance of the individual and the organization will also become better. So remember just now in my positive psychology model, okay, there are 4 levels. Okay, the first one is the called subjective level. What we mean by subjective level is, as I said, organizations need to foster what we call as valued positive subjective experiences. For example, in the past, we might, when we evaluate our positive experiences, we might think of the past. So in the past, if we feel that we are well taken care of, our well-being taken care of, we are satisfied, then we use that basis to look for the future with optimism and hope. And as a result of which, this will actually influence our flow of happiness in the present moment. So there are three temporal kind of like longitudinal time frame, what we are saying here, the experience. Okay. And how does HRM can facilitate this kind of positive subjective experience? It's like what I said, try to create a situation where the employees will feel a sense of high gratitude towards the organization. Okay, for example, the employer is a caring employer, for example, so they will have a positive emotions enacted or elicited from their past experience. Because according to the B&B theory, as I say, build and broaden theory, once the employee build up the positive emotion, they can actually develop a lot of personal resources. I'll talk more about this. Yeah. So organization nowadays, when you think about resources, you're thinking about financial resources, training, and all that. But what we are emphasizing here is the employees also have their personal resources that can be developed, which is, in a nutshell, you might say that this is a kind of available resources which the organization need to tap on. Okay, and also organization can also help to develop psychological capital in their employees. For example, a sense of self-efficacy, a sense of confidence that they can do the job, and optimistic about the future. Hope, they know how to do the job, and also resilience. Even though they fail, but they're able to bounce back faster. So now you get a little bit of sense about this. And as per the individual level, this focuses more on the positive individual traits, such as examples, confidence, courage, and so on, talent, and wisdom. So what we are saying here is HR or HRM need to facilitate or intervene to develop these trait-like characteristics. For example, what? HRM strategies and practices need to focus on individual strengths, as I mentioned, Each and every individual, we have our own strengths. So organizations need to identify those strengths and link it to organizational mission and values and objectives. Yeah. So this is a better approach according to positive psychology literature, as compared to identify the employee's weaknesses and try to mitigate those weaknesses. Why not identify their strength and capitalize on them? Okay. So that is the idea. Next is at the group level, or you can call it organizational level. This is where we need to identify this is about the civic virtues of the organization. Like, you're asking yourself, what is the good things or the strengths of the organization that we have? So focus on the strengths, still focus on the strength. Okay. Example is we use the approach called appreciative inquiry approach. This approach emphasizes on getting better, as opposed to conventionally we are thinking about action research or problem solving approach. That means we wait for problems to occur, then we find practices to remedy or make good. That is too late. Appreciative inquiry is a proactive approach, meaning to say we look at the core strengths, as I said, to facilitate positive change of how the organization can be better, building on their strengths now. So that is the organizational level. Okay, that's what the organization need to develop. So as you can see now, positive psychology intervention, you can actually think in terms of one-off or structural intervention. Of course, structural intervention is better compared to one-off. One-off is like do it once. Once you achieve target, you won't do it. Structural means you do it continuously. Structure is always better than one-off. Okay? Then we move from positive psychology to positive organizational behavior. What is this? Okay, as we know, the study of organizational behavior is actually a study of individuals, groups, and organizations, right? And their behavior towards better performance, organizational performance. So when you talk about positive OB, we are actually referring to the study and application of positively oriented HR strengths. Again, the keyword is still HR strengths and psychological capabilities. For example, just now the BICAB, for example. Yeah. So it has a strong focus on individual psychological capital, the 4, or we can be normally we refer to as hero. H for hope, E for efficacy, R for resilience, O for optimism. So this is a very popular topic in the organizational behavior topic. I think some of you will be aware if you are in this area. Okay, other popular HRM roles to facilitate positive psychology, there's a positive thinking, emotions, and behavior is what we call as the job crafting. So this is also a very popular, I'm just trying to create some popular themes so that people can understand this in 30 minutes. Okay. One popular concept that we normally talk about is job crafting. Job crafting is a concept whereby we allow employees to actually design their own job. Okay, rather than the job is designed and ask the employees to execute it. No, job crafting is letting the employee, giving the employees autonomy to design their own job based on their strengths. That is job crafting. So imagine a situation whereby you are managing white-collar workers, they know what to do, they know how to do. So how to motivate them further is by giving them autonomy to design their own jobs based on their capability and experience and skills. So in that sense, we are able to kind of like, according to the job demand resources theory, they are able to optimize or balance the job demands and job resources, because nowadays, as you know, the working world, the job demands is very high, isn't it? So we need enough resources to help the employees to kind of like manage these job demands. One of it is giving them job opportunity to craft their own jobs, especially for knowledge workers, I'm saying, okay? And also another popular HRM roles now, very popular, is what we call mindfulness-based intervention. What we are saying here is raise the awareness of employees that they need to pay attention to what happened at the current moment. Stop worrying about what happened in the past, because that's not something that we can do. And also do not worry too much what will happen in the future, okay? Because sometimes we can't plan. The planning schedule becomes shorter. So what we can do now is accept and experience the current moment and make full use of it. So because we believe, this group of scholars believe that if we focus and do our best at the current moment, the future will be well taken care of. Okay, so you have what we call as mindfulness-based therapies, for example, to help the employees to manage their emotion, their well-being, and so on. Yeah, quite a popular HRM practices. So I'll run through quickly on some of the theories that scholars can and will use in this school of thought, this area. Okay, because I understand and I know that a lot of audiences now are PhD students. So you need what we call as an underlying theory when you develop your problem statement. So I'm going to talk about 3 theories that can help you to develop models. Okay, so the first one, very popular, is what we call job demands resources theory. So this theory basically talks about they are classifying or categorizing the working condition into job demands and job resources, as we know. Every job environment has what we call job demands. So job demands consumes energy, consumes effort, so it leads to psychological and physiological costs. Whereas job demands, job resources, foster the personal growth, learning, and development, and have motivational qualities. So what we are saying here is, there are two processes involved in our work environment. One is the health impairment process. This happens when you have a lot of job demands, the employees feel burnout, as all of us know. So how to manage this health impairment or burnout spiral is through the motivational process, whereby we provide employees with the job resources that they need. Okay, so these job resources actually includes organizational resources that employer give, for example, like support, training, good supervisory practices, ability to job craft their work, and also personal resources that the employee generate themselves, where the organization facilitate. Okay, and to kind of like optimize. So when you have a lot of job demands, when the job demand is high, you need more job resources. And also the job resources could actually buffer or mitigate or weaken the impact of job demands on burnout. Okay, so HRM, as I said here, should assist employees to manage the job demand resources for optimum performance. Okay, so this is the JDR theory. The other theory, which is very, very popular in the OB literature and also general management, is what we call as COR, or conservation of resources theory. This is also a very popular one. Every PhD thesis you'll find either JDR, COR, very common. Okay, so I just highlight the principles. So the very basic tenet of COR theory says individuals always strive to obtain, retain, foster, and protect resources that they centrally value. So literally speaking, for example, if knowledge workers would want autonomy in doing their work and recognition, for example. So if these resources they want to protect and keep and foster and strengthen. So if these resources are taken away from them or consumed very much until the lack of this kind of resources because of the job demand is too high, for example, then they feel disappointed and burn out. That leads to principle 1, you see. Primacy of loss principle. We need to say resource loss is disproportionately more salient or obvious or important or significant than resource gain. What it means here is, in the working world, resource loss is more significant and it happens more often compared to resource gain because of the highly demanding work environment we have in contemporary organization. It happens more. Because of that, we need the second principle, that's resource investment principle. So if we lose the resources that we value, for example, say like connection, support, career path, and so on, then people need to invest resources in order to protect against resource loss and regain the resources. Which means to say, people, they want to invest the resources. Or invest could be like develop the resources, find the resources, or seek resources and all that. So where does the resources come from? It can be from the organization, facilitated by organization, or from the employee themselves. Okay, where are the resources? All right. Which this leads to principle 3, we say gain paradox principle. It says resource gain increases in salient in the context of resources. That means the more resources you lose, the more resources you need, as I said. Okay, so this is a very important thing because nowadays, because the high demanding job, you lose more resources compared to the resources that can be provided or developed by the employee. Okay, principle 4 is desperation principle. When people are not able to meet their need for resources, they become defensive. And then according to this theory, it says there's a concept called resource caravans or groups of resources. So when we say resources, it's always in a group or a team or combination or things like that. You don't talk about one resources, you talk about multiple resources. That's what I mentioned just now, organizational or personal resources. Okay. Next is the corollary or the propositions. It says people or individuals with more resources, they are less vulnerable to resource loss, which means to say they are more resilient. So if managers ask, how do we make employees less vulnerable to job demands? That means they are more resilient. So they need to be provided with more resources, or they themselves develop what we call as the personal resources like BICAB or job crafting and all that. Okay, and those who lack resources are more vulnerable. So if we want to be less vulnerable, more resilient, so we need to have more resources. So if the organization that we work with do not provide us with adequate resources, what to do? We generate or we develop our own personal resources. That is the solution. Okay, and this leads to corollary 2, where the resource loss cycle. What we are saying is the resource loss is more powerful than the resource gain. What we are saying here is the rate of resource loss is faster than the resource gain. That's what we mean. I think all of us agree with that. So when you have more and more resource loss, it creates what we call stress spiral or loss spiral. Okay, and so we need to catch up. That's the thing. Yeah, and this leads to corollary 3, where the resource gain spirals. So because the resource gain spiral is slower and lower at magnitude, then the resource gain spiral tend to be weak and develop slowly. Okay. Yeah. So organization need to understand this point. Why? Because organization need to understand that it takes time to build the resources to cover or to protect the resources loss. Okay, and then we say, that's why I'm saying that HRM roles should assist to employees to obtain, retain, foster, and protect the resources they value. That's very important in order to keep the employees motivated. Okay, the third theory is also very, very important. We call broaden and build theory of positive emotions. So as we know, because of COVID, a lot of people are depressed, lost their jobs, you know, and then we feel depressed with all the negative emotions all sets in. So positive emotion and organizational role in facilitating the development of positive emotion becomes even more important, I think. Yeah, purely because positive emotions will broaden the momentary thought action repertoire. These are very heavy words, but basically what it means is, if we are happy in our work while working, we will broaden our thinking, it will activate our thinking and behavior in a positive way. Meaning to say we think positive, we feel positive, and we act positively over a period of time. That's what I mean by momentary. Okay, and some examples, like for example, you see the positive impact of positive emotion is the discovery of, if people are happy at their work, the outcome is they are more creative, you know, and when they are happy, they will build more personal resources. Like for example, just now I talked about hero. When the employee is happy, they are more positive, they are more hopeful of the future, they are more optimistic, and even if they fail, they'll rebound back faster. Okay, yeah, and so when they build out the resources, they will be more ready to face future stress, and because of that, their well-being will be better. They create what we call as upward spirals. Okay, an example of some of the personal resources that can be built as a result of positive emotions are like cognitive, the way we think. If we are happy, we are more calm in terms of our mind. And also social, when we are happy, we are able to develop better friendships with our colleagues. Also positive outcome, reduce conflict, and also psychological. For example, like I told you, more resilient, more optimistic in the facing of adversity. And we are more healthy as well. Research shows happy people are healthier. I think everybody agree to that. Okay. It builds our immunity. And these are the references, yeah. So I think it's almost 30 minutes. Okay. Yeah. So I thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Liu. It's very interesting about positive psychology. Okay, I would like conduct a research about it. Okay, thank you very much for this new
You want
insight.
to embark on a PhD study? I can supervise you.
Oh, thank you very much.
You can contact me. Anyway, you can
Okay.
get anybody who's interested. Yeah, you can get my contact email from the organizer, or I'll just key in my contact.
Okay, sorry, you just muted.
I'm saying I will type my
Okay.
email address in the chat. So people
Okay.
will contact me. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So thank you very much for all keynote speakers for their informative and interesting talk. And now I will start the Q&A session. Should any of the participants have any question, please raise your hand and we will unmute you. And you can talk and ask the question right away. Okay, so if you cannot talk at the moment, you can write your question on the chat. So we have one question here. It's for Dr. Liu. So the question is, seeing how the economical growth going as for of now, one that has been affected with the war. Personally, I often come across companies who do not value, not even slightest bit consider about such positive psychological point to be implied in the work field. In fact, most work push the employee to their limits, causing pressure, which result in employees to be demotivated to continue working. So, what is your opinion regarding the matter, and how do you think companies should apply such positivity, which actually can be more beneficial to the company? Because
Very,
as yeah,
very
because
long
as
question. Huh?
yes, this is very long, very
Can
long
you,
one.
I
Yeah.
can't see in the chat.
Okay.
Will it be, can you cut and paste and put it there so that I can read and then answer properly?
Okay. Yes. Yes. Of
Boleh
course.
tak? It's because it's very long. By the time
Yeah.
you read until the end, I've forgotten the first part already.
Okay. So,
maybe get the, you know, the name of the, okay, let me read.
okay. I
Seeing
already
how the
raised.
economic growth going as of now, one that has been affected with the war, okay, personally, I often come across companies who do not value, not even slightest bit consider about such positive, okay, to be implied in the work field. In fact, most works push the employees to their limits, they are correct, causing pressure which result in employees to be demotivated, correct. What is your opinion regarding the matter, and how do you think companies should apply such positivity, which actually can be more beneficial to the company? Because as you said, companies can have less resource loss, but it seems like most companies do not value their employees and do not even care if they quit their job. Correct. Yes, that is why I'm saying, that's why the topic of my talk is the role of HRM in fostering positive psychology in contemporary organizations. All right. Of course, most of the company outside, or I should say some companies outside, do not value the employee. Okay. So this is a matter of choice. But what we are saying is, what is the outcome that organization want to see? If they want their employees to be healthy, safe, and as a result of which the organization do well, over the long term, then they should practice positive psychology. If not, if they do all these things, what will happen is the turnover of the employees will be very high. So when it is very high, when the turnover is very high, they need to repeat the cycle of the HRM again, recruitment, selection, training, motivating, and so on. So at the end of the day, the cost of managing people will be higher. And because it is higher, the organization will not do well. So to answer your question, what we are saying is, if the organization wants the organization to be effective and the employees to perform better, then they should use some of the ideas I presented here. If not, the employees will be unhealthy, it results in higher medical costs, and at the same time, the organization will not do well. So to me, this thing happens because they are not exposed to the positive psychology paradigm. This kind of HRM practices is what we call as the, if you look at the management approach, we call this classical school of thought rather than human relations school of thought. What I'm presenting now is the human relations school of thought. What you are saying here is exactly classical HR model, which treat human beings as objects, not as humans. That's my response. Yeah,
Okay.
I hope I answer your question.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Liu.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone want to deliver their question? Okay. While we are waiting, I have a question here for Dr. Ranjit. So about I read on the slide that we should make employee understand the value of AI. So how do we make employee can understand the value of artificial intelligence? Maybe you can.
No, I can see artificial intelligence. To answer your question, AI have taken as an example. There's so many technological changes which are happening. The only way is to make sure that employees are taught the changes what is happening. So at a entry level and at different levels, the training is absolutely necessary. So somewhere I have mentioned that there is going to be a balance between usage of artificial intelligence and skill levels. So I think that's where the point lies, improving the skill level of employees to that extent at on a continuous level. That means you can't just stop one day. So maybe every 6 months, every 1 year, there has to be training in different aspects of technology, including artificial intelligence, including smart manufacturing, including the usage of blockchain, etc. So that the employees have the necessary skills to cope up with that. I think that's one aspect. Second aspect is the entry level itself. Now employees will be challenged to have basic knowledge or maybe above par knowledge of technological changes which are happening, which definitely will be upgraded when training happens. That's the second aspect. Third aspect will be the from the top management point of view. Definitely there have to be a lot of investment in terms of training. There have to be investment in terms of how do we balance work-life balance. There have to be a lot of training, not only from the technology aspect, but there have to be training in terms of how technology will not make you lose your job. So that security aspect has also to come into the situation in this particular aspect. So training, teaching, investment, empathy to be shown, right? All these aspects have to be there for organizations to take employees along with them in that endeavor. This is from my side. Any other speaker has any other points of view, you can add on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the insight, Dr. Ranji. Okay, for another participant, maybe you have a question. Please raise your hand. Okay. While we are waiting, I have another question for Professor J this time. So I read about we should make accounting process to become more strategic for the organization. So can you please explain more about how to make that accounting process become more strategic for the organization in digital transformation?
Hello, thank you so much, for the question.
Thank
you. The people in the particularly related to the managerial accounting, and they look at the data, right? And they look at the data, and some data shows that strategically, for example, and some business area is growing, okay, and we need more resources, to put it in there, because we cannot adequately provide the support that it requires. Okay, so strategically it is important, to put all the resources in the right place than spending time on other things that may not be producing. And in the same time, strategically, and the accounting, the processes and the data, okay, and coming from there, and you can see that something is not going right, and either we are losing the market share or we are not doing something. And again, strategically, that can be looked at, oh, something we are not doing right, and we need to improve this. So these are some examples, that I mentioned. And likewise, and you go through, and that processes that I mentioned in my presentation, like call P1, P2, whatever, those things. And then look at, strategically. So sometimes, they are strategically important, as the workforce enhancement tools, and that helps the workforce. Sometimes some processes and important, and in the accounting process, and at one time, the big thing was the activity-based account, the costing, right? And called ABC. And ABC, in fact, look at this, and the which activities are costing money, and which activities not producing anything, right? So the basic point of ABC was to find out, those things, and then remove the ones, that don't add value, for example. And so the similar thing, that I'm saying, and they look at, those things, and in a strategic point, and now the difference here is to ABC that you find a solution, Now, not all the solutions are digital, of course, and you use that design thinking, as I explained, and then think, So to do this one, you need some people, like Professor Ranjit mentioned, that the people must be aware of technologies, and if the people are there, and then they can think about, oh, this can be done, and so then find the right resources and people, and then implement it. So that is what I meant by strategically finding. And in the case of that Shinsei Bank, then they thought, they look at the data, right? And the consumer banking was increasing, and then they need more resources and the more things to attract. And so strategically it was important, handle that ATM problem, and then offer that ATM, the fee or whatever, free, and how to implement it is another thing, and you have it now, you offer it free, and then and what kind of do you offer that free the transfer to all the customers in the bank, or should we, is it better to offer to some people, who may have some certain amount of, the money in the bank? Okay, so that is another strategic thinking, and then so those kind of things, can be done, and using this framework.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor J, for the information. Okay, so we have another question here. It's for Dr. Ranjit. I will copy and paste the question, and I will also read it. Okay, so the question is, oh sorry, wait.
Hello.
I will paste it. Sorry. There are a lot of advantages that accountant gain in this era 4.0. But
Sorry,
as
ma'am,
we know,
I'm not able to hear properly because of sound.
oh sorry, can you hear me now?
No, not your problem. There's a lot of sound here in my place. So can you be a little bit louder, please?
Okay. How about now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So the question is in the chat. I already copy and paste it, and I will read it too. So the question is, there are a lot of advantages that accountant gain in this era 4.0, but as we know, technology also is the accountant to conduct fraud. So how do we balance the accounting ethics in this disruption era?
Last part I didn't hear. How do we
balance the accounting ethics in this disruption era?
Accounting ethics.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not accounting and that side. So, but still, on a general sense, you can say that technological changes are found to have far consequences in terms of, as we mentioned, legal issues and other things. So, if you want to implement ethics in any part of business, in combination with technology, the effort has to come from the management side, the top management side, in terms of how we implement. So the business heads should ensure that whatever changes you are making and whatever changes you are incorporating your accounting practices have to follow basic level of ethics. So that's one side of it. Second side of it is definitely it is company to company it might vary, country to country it might vary. So I'm not sure whether we can have universal rule with respect to how do we implement ethics in any part of business in these changes which are happening in terms of technology. So it has to be a combination of the company practices, the top management commitment, and legal factors, which will, and obviously the employee understanding of the whole thing, which will ensure that ethical practices are followed even now in this changing world. So I think it has to come from your vision mission, right? So it has to be strategically incorporated. It has to come in your strategic side, corporate strategy and business strategy. So if it's not there, then it will be very difficult for the companies to implement. So 360-degree contribution has to be there, with definitely with a huge amount of effort from the top management to ensure that ethical practices are followed. That's what I feel. Thank you.
Okay, thank
I
you.
hope I answered the question.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. And so that's the answer to the question from Maylenia Rahma. I hope. Okay, so there's another one want to ask a question from Anaki Nagari. Anaki Nagari, wait. We will unmute. Sebentar. Please wait a minute. Okay. Okay. You can ask the question right now. Already unmute? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, very clear.
Oh, yeah. I want to ask question to Professor J.
Hello, hello.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had the video shut down. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. So a bit of story first. So a few years ago, I worked in one of a big company in Japan, like the subsidiary of a Japanese big company. And since I have to work directly with the people in Japan headquarters, I understand how important it is to improve the process and digitize the data. So at that time, the management was really eager to improve and start a lot of process optimization project. At that time, we were partnering with Oracle, and they want to improve like procurement, production, accounting, like a lot of process. And the problem is that at that time, the company didn't have enough competent IT staff who understand the data. Thus, they were overwhelmed, and the project was not that successful, unfortunately. So my question is, when the company only have limited human resources and unable to recruit an expert, thus they only able to pick probably like one process to optimize at one time. How do they find, or how do they decide to process to improve? Like what aspect they need to consider first, like maybe the most profitable, or maybe the easiest one to improve, or maybe the most beneficial to the customer? Yes.
Yeah. That's a very excellent question, in fact. And and I completely understand your the experience. In fact, what happened is many of the Japanese companies which are not in IT sector, they don't hire IT people, and the banks, the hospitals, the manufacturing companies, they hire engineers, in manufacturing, but not IT people. So this had been happening. Things have changed now. Now they are looking for IT people, and now, as you mentioned, there's a severe shortage, and so they are going for overseas IT people, and but there's a big shortage of people, particularly Japanese or Japanese speaking IT people. And when they want to do something like, as you mentioned, look at what is important, what is easiest to do, and what is the most important in terms of customers, etc. And sometimes they don't have much choice, because they have to find the people who could do it, and you are asking Oracle and come and do the job, for you. And the Oracle people also, they are not in the company. So they may not quite understand the problem, and now to explain the problem to somebody, and, and you need somebody who has little bit knowledge about a good understanding of the problem. Okay. And so this is the major issue in Japan, digital transformation. And now, in fact, this year, I'm in the Tokyo International University, and we were asked by the ministry to teach all the Japanese, the students, the very basic, at least very basic IT. So they have to take courses. Okay. And because the problem has become very critical, there are so many people who, majority of them, in fact, sometimes almost all of them, and they don't know anything about the technology, you know. And so to answer your question, I think the situation had not changed much, even though there are time to change. Government is trying. And I talk with some of my friends who are doing these training programs in the companies, and they mention the major obstacle is the HR people working in the companies. The HR people themselves don't understand the need, and so they find, the people, whoever, good in some university or some gone to some reputed university in Japan, and instead of hiring people who are capable, to do the job. And so this may take a little bit time, but the problem had not changed much from your experience time, unfortunately. And but they should do the right thing, as you mentioned, look at, and then they decide strategically what is important, and, and then explain it to Oracle, in this particular case, this is exactly what you want to do. So make, the whatever the interfaces and others, in fact, many people sometimes they don't know it can be done. I see in my own school here too, and we have IT system developed by another big IT company called Fujitsu, and so the Fujitsu, don't understand exactly what is going on in the university, so they come and give whatever they want to give, and the people, unless people here in the university tell them, no, this is what we want, and the people here, if you cannot tell them exactly, then the Fujitsu people dump, whatever they have in the school. And then whatever the staff think, oh, this is the way it should be done. So they spend enormous amount of time, in fact, doing similar things that can be done very quickly, very easily. But they think that's the way it is. When you don't have that the little bit knowledge about the technology, and you think like that. So this is a big problem, and in Japan versus particularly country like United States, even a small company hire IT people, hospitals hire IT people, lawyers officers hire IT people, and so they have IT people, but but not here. Yeah, thank you so much for the interesting question.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Can I ask another question? For Dr. Taekyu Liu.
Okay, yes, please. Dr. Liu?
Yes. Please.
Okay.
Oh, yes. I want to ask another question. So I listened about the idea of job demands resources. When the demand high, the resources need to be high too. But then in my experience, a lot of people in the reality see a certain resources like training, supervising as something that maybe hinders or disturb their job. Like sometimes they talk to me and tell me that we have a lot of jobs, we don't have time, but why the manager keep telling us to go to trainings? Like it's such a waste of time. So they don't see all of those trainings as a necessity, and even if the training was successful, they don't apply it on their job. So they only do the training because they have to, not because they need to. So I think here's the roles of HRM is needed. Like, how do we convince those people to change their perspective? Like, what method should we take to make them understand the need to increase their job resources? Thank you.
Yeah, very good questions, Madam Miss Aneka.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. The idea behind JDR theory is, in fact, JDR theory is a theory that helps organizations to manage and employees to manage what we call as stress. Actually, So in the context that what you are saying, that employees do not appreciate training and things like that, that is correct, because they do not see the impact of training to their performance. That could be because, as I said, in the JDR theory, job resources provided will be salient or even more important in a working environment with a high job demand. So probably in the context that you are saying, that probably in that context, the job demand is not as great, they can handle. So when in that situation, when the employee can handle the job demand, so job demand would be like anything, so for example, like overloaded of work, not clear, they do not have the skills to execute their job and things like that. So maybe in that environment where the job demands is not so challenging, they can handle, then training is not required. It's not that required. They don't appreciate that much. But when they face a situation whereby the job demand is too high, that they cannot handle, that affects their job performance, or that affects their, or in an environment where they think that they do not have the skills to do their job because their knowledge has become obsolete, then they feel, that is the time when they feel that they need more resources. So it could be that environment, I suspect. Betul tak? That's why I'm just asking. Betul kan?
Probably yes.
So you have to see what kind of environment. These job demands will only activate the motivational cycle, upward spiral, in the environment where the job demand is very high. So you might want to check on that. But if not, then the effect of training and supervisory will be not as high as is compared to the job demand environment is higher. That's a very good question. Then when people ask questions, I start to think. Yeah. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, thank you for the question. Is there anyone who wants to ask a question more? We still have time. Is there any other participant who want to ask question? Okay, I will check the chat. Okay, so there's a question here on the chat from Nur Hidayati. This is a question to Professor J. So how to keep company data safe and data system used effectively and sustainably?
Hello.
Okay, Professor J. Yes.
Yeah, the question is how to keep the data safe
and data systems used effectively and sustainably.
Yeah, this is also a good question. In fact, this is the main point that the cloud people are making, because they say that you cannot keep the data safe by yourself, because to protect the data, you need very highly sophisticated software. Sometimes we call up firewalls, sometimes it includes hardware too, and which are expensive now. In fact, among the most expensive ones, if you look up the software expenses of a company, security is the main one. And unless you have the very top security, and the thieves can get in, the hackers. Okay, so this would become exorbitantly costly. In fact, one reason, in fact, my previous university signed up with Google for email was the email system the university had was getting hacked, and to protect it would cost enormous amount of money. Okay, so this cloud thing is a framework that the companies had resorted, and that's why the clouds are, expanding, And we're talking about Amazon, Amazon's major income, not e-commerce, major income is cloud, and then the Azure, Google, and all these people, and even the small companies now can have a cloud, system, and and the data is somewhat secure, and in their cloud, and then that way, in fact, they get them. You don't have to spend money, on your own hardware, and of course you might need some hardware, but not to the level of having your expensive servers and with the protection. Okay, so the cloud is that's why, to answer your question, cloud has been the solution now that people are pursuing. Okay, but sometimes some companies don't want to put the data in the cloud, because of their own reasons, particularly some banks, and those things, and then of course, you need to spend money. And I was, talking with somebody in the Deutsche Bank in Japan, and they mentioned the Japanese government demands that you must have another data center backup to secure the data, So they have one backup, and also because of this earthquake and that kind of risks, and there's also a distance, the kind of constraint that the second the backup must be, I think, 70 kilometers or something away from your the first the IT system. So you have original the facility, and then you have a backup facility. So in case of Deutsche Bank, in fact, they have two. One is called the Mirror. It's exactly the same facility that they have in Tokyo. Same thing, except the people. So if something happened in Tokyo, people can just move to the other one, and it's like working in Tokyo. Same thing. And then just to keep the data, the backup, they have one I heard in Osaka or somewhere, that to satisfy the government, the regulation. And so this kind of things, they are a little bit costly. So if you can afford it, and then you can do it, And the backup also, depending on the business, and there are several ways to back up your data, and just keep the data, in some, regularly back up the data and store in some places, And so there are some things like that, but still, while the operation is running during the day, people can, the hackers can get in unless you have that protection. So so you need to spend some money right now. Okay, so that is my answer. Did I answer it properly?
Okay, I hope that answered the question from Nur Hidayati. So we should backup the data regularly to secure our data.
Thank you so much for the question.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer and the questions also. So is there any question more from participant? Please raise your hand. If there are any question, you can raise your hand or you can write it on the chat. Okay, I think there's no more question here. So I think that's close our Q&A session, and that concludes the discussion today with our keynote speakers with their astounding presentation. So thank you again for our keynote speakers for sharing those amazing insights with us today. Hopefully their knowledge can be inspiration for all of us here. Now we shall return to our MC, Aulia Hadiani, to explain the next session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for our keynote speakers and also Ms. Sharina for such insightful discussions. And for keynote speakers, please kindly join us for the next agenda in the other room as notify the committee in advance. Thank you. Thank you very well, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure that we've been having a great day since the seminar and discussions were definitely resourceful and well constructed. In a moment, we will run on the next agenda of the parallel sessions. Before we move to the presentation sessions, please make sure to rename your Zoom according to your role and also explain in advance for presenters. Please add letter R followed by your room's number and then your full name. And then for the section chairs, please add SC in the beginning and followed by your R with your room's number and then your full name. And for the breakout rooms, we'll be ready for about 20 to 30 minutes. So please be patient for it, and the committee is working on it. And then after that, all presenters can enter the Zoom room based on the presentation schedule. You can join the room by clicking the join button and you will be automatically joining your presentation room. After the presentation has been accomplished, all presenters are urged to coming back to the main room for the closing remark. And make sure to follow our agenda until the end because we will announce the best presenters and the best reviewers at the end of this parallel sessions. And for the best paper will be announced later after the conference in our social media. And those selected will be granted awards. Thank you. Okay, very well. Hello, very good morning. Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I feel so excited. So it seems like still morning here because it's a little bit cloudy. Yeah, I hope you've been having a great day since you have finally presented your research papers. And before wrapping up the conference, I'd like to announce 3 best presenters and also reviewers. At first, we'd like to announce the winners of the best presenters category. So here, the third place is Devana Ayu Nurholisa with the paper Determinants of the MOCA Post-Adoptions by Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises in Jakarta using Unified Theory of Acceptance and Use of Technology. Congratulations! For Devana, you'll get the certificate of the appreciations and also the award with the fund of 500,000 rupiahs. Congratulations. Okay, for the second place or runner-up is Astrid Putri Rahmajati with the paper titled The Gap Between the Competency of Forensic Accounting Practitioners and Forensic Accounting Educations. Congratulations for Astrid Putri Rahmajati. For the second place or the runner-up, you will get the certificate of appreciations and also funding as much as 1 billion rupiahs. Congratulations. Okay, now for the winner is Mia Ika Rahmawati with the title of the article Blockchain Technology for an Enhancement KYC Assessment Design Science Research Approach. Congratulations for Mia Ika Rahmawati. You will get certificate of appreciations and also funding as much as 1.5 billion rupiahs. Congratulations. Okay. Congratulations to all the winners, and you must have done an impressive presentations. And please give big applause for them. Okay, the last words will be given to the best reviewers. And for the third place is Meilenia Rahma Salisa SAK. Congratulations to Miss Meilenia Rahma Salisa. You will get certificate of appreciations and also funding as much as 500,000 rupiahs. Congratulations. And for the runner-up is Nur Hidayati SAMM CSRA. Congratulations for Nur Hidayati. You will get the certificate of appreciation and also the funding of 750,000 rupiahs. And now the time for the winner or the first place is Anake Nagari MSc. Congratulations for Miss Anake Nagari. You will get certificate of appreciations and also the funding as much as 1 billion rupiahs. Congratulations. Thank you for all the winners, and you can get the awards and also certificates of appreciation after the event alongside the certificate sharing for all participants of this event. And for the winners, please contact the committee directly for the settlement. Very well, ladies and gentlemen, we have finally come to the end of Brawijaya International Conference on Accounting and Business, BICAB 2022. And it's such a joyful moment to engage in this kind of event, interact with various people with different point of view, but the same excitement. Hopefully you get all necessary fruitful and engaging breakthrough knowledge on the improving business performance in the post-crisis through accounting and information system for a more valuable tomorrow. Don't forget to post a photo and testimonial in your Instagram and also social media and give hashtag 2022 BICAB and info for academia. The best post will win free ticket to our next conference. On behalf of Brawijaya University, Sekolah Tinggi Ilmu Ekonomi Yayasan Keluarga Pahlawan Negara Yogyakarta, Faculty of Economics and Business Universitas Tadulako, Faculty of Economics and Business Universitas Mula Warman, Faculty of Economics and Business Universitas Kristen Satya Wacana Salatiga, Faculty of Economics and Social Universitas Bakri, Faculty of Economics and Business Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Yogyakarta, Faculty of Business and Economics Universitas Surabaya, Faculty of Economics and Business Universitas Pamulang, Faculty of Business, Economics and Business Universitas Negeri Malang, Sekolah Tinggi Ilmu Ekonomi Malang Kucecuara, Faculty of Economy Universitas Madura, Faculty of Economy Universitas Kristen Petra, as well as two sponsors of this event, Adi Putro and PT Anugrah Citra Abadi. We'd like to say thank you to all keynote speakers, moderator, participants, and especially to committees of today's program. And thank you very much for your contributions. Our apology for any inconvenience and lags during the program. Hope to engage with you again soon in the next agenda. Stay productive and also feel content. I am Aulia Herdiani. See you and goodbye.